Second half of our Robbie Stadium rapidly filling here in Miami for the second wild card of the day that you will be watching, the Miami Dolphins against the Kansas City Chiefs. We talked about the difference between the two quarterbacks. Steve DeBerg for Kansas City, Dan Marino from Miami. How about the coaches? Don Shula, well, he's a legend. There's no question about his niche in the Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. In his 28th year as a head coach, he's taken 6 different teams to Super Bowls. He had that undefeated season back in 1972. He's done just about all of it, as opposed to Marty Schottenheimer. Marty Schottenheimer, however, could be a Don Shula of the future. A lot of people have a great deal of respect for Marty Schottenheimer in the 2 years that turned Kansas City around. But getting back to Don Shula, Al, to me, and I've known him for many, many years. I played against him. I watched him coach. He has the capacity to maintain the fire, the strength. He wants this year, and he wants as much as he did when he was a young coach.
No burnout problem for Don. He was a boy wonder back in 1963 when he took over the Colts, who were then in Baltimore. He was only 33 years old. He celebrated yesterday his 61st birthday, and today he coaches his 30th playoff game, second in history only to Tom Landry. Don Shula here talks about today's opposition, the Kansas City Chiefs.
Well, I think we drew one of the strong teams in the National Football League. We played them twice last year in the last 5 games of the season, and they were a team that wasn't supposed to do anything, but Schottenheimer got them turned around at the end of last year, and this now is a continuation of that football team. We think they're awful strong, and we got to play our best football to win it.
You're noted for never letting things get too much or too far out of hand. It's quite clear that you and Dan Marino went through a shaky period over the last year or two, but it seems to have been resolved. How did you do it?
Well, last year and the year before, there was frustration, and Dan is a great competitor. You know, I'm a pretty good competitor myself. And, you know, we were disappointed at the way that things were going. And we had those talks after the season last year and the year before, and the subject of trade did come up. And we went through the picture, explaining the different options. But there was never any hate involved between the two of us. And I respect him as a quarterback and as a great competitor, and I hope he has that same respect for me as a coach.
At any time over the past 4 or 5 years, did you ever say to yourself, that's it, I've had enough?
No, not really. I'm not a negative person, and you know, I don't worry about burnout. I've been fortunate health-wise. I've been in great health. I enjoy coaching. I enjoy the meetings. I enjoy the practice sessions. But above all, I enjoy game day. You know, the decisions that have to be made, the excitement, the highs, the lows, the emotions. And I don't know where I'd ever go to duplicate that kind of a feeling.
I know you like to concentrate on what's ahead, but I'm sure with a sense of history, you've taken a look at charts that show George Halas, 325 victories, counting postseason on top. You're not that far behind. How important will it be for you to someday be #1?
I think if it fits within the framework of being healthy and winning and everything positive in the program, and eventually I end up with the most wins, I'd be very, very proud of that. But I'm not going to stay awake at night trying to figure out how to beat George Halas's record. You know, I'm happy about my record now. I hope that there are more wins out there in the future, but I'm not going to just try to hang around to beat that record.
You know, when you talk about these two coaches and the contrast and the similarities, keep in mind, too, that Don Shula was very successful at Baltimore, but Miami was able to wrest him away, and now 21 years with the Dolphins. Marty Schottenheimer looked like he was going to have a long stint at Cleveland, and then he and Art Modell couldn't get together. On he goes to Kansas City, and he's liable to be in Kansas City as long as Shula's been in Miami.
I doubt it'll be us, but maybe 15, 20 years from now, some announcers are going to be in a booth. Now, Frank will probably still be here. But stop and think about it. Here we are talking about Marty Schottenheimer, who's been a head coach in the National Football League for 6 full seasons. He's taken his teams into the playoffs 5 of those 6 seasons and has made some trips to the championship game, only 1 game away from a Super Bowl. You're talking about a guy who at a relatively young age has achieved a tremendous amount of success. Well liked by the players. He's thriving now in an outstanding organization in Kansas City, headed up by Carl Peterson. So I think when you talk about Marty Schottenheimer, you're talking about a man at a relatively young age who looks to me, guys, like he has an awful lot of staying power.
Rapidly filling Joe Robbie Stadium. Well, let's go down to the field now where Hall of Fame quarterback Bob Greasy is standing by, and he's been watching Kansas City Chiefs quarterback Steve DeBerg. Bob?
Well, the quarterbacks are in great shape. Marino has wanted to be in the playoffs for a long time, and he's here. Steve DeBerg has no problems. Taking a snap is not a problem. Throwing is not a problem. He may have a problem handing the ball off with that injured left hand, especially to Barry Word. Some running backs take the ball more gently than others. Barry Word likes to grab it, streak the ball away, to really tear it away from the quarterback. That may be a problem. How has DeBerg played the last couple of weeks? Outstanding. Over 500 yards the last 2 weeks. Marty Schottenheimer said he's played better the last 2 weeks than he's played all season long. And why? Sometimes when you get an injury, a quarterback feels like, well, you're not exposed to play as well as you normally do. I think there's less pressure and more concentration by Steve DeBerg. He's had an outstanding year. They're on a roll, 6 out of 7. They'll be tough to beat.
Okay, Bob, thank you, and we'll be checking in with you later. Right now, we're going to go back to Philadelphia and check in. Up in Philadelphia, here's Brent Musburger. Brent?
The following is a special presentation of ABC Sports.
The patriarch of the Miami Dolphins is head coach Don Shula, an NFL head coach at age 33. In his 28 years as head coach, he's taken 6 teams to Super Bowls. His 1990 Miami Dolphins are back in the playoffs after a 4-year absence from postseason play.
When you're out of the playoffs, when you're used to being in the playoffs, it's a tough feeling. You never get used to the suddenness of the season ending. All of a sudden, you got nowhere to go and nothing to do. And I don't like that feeling. So I'm very happy to get this football team back into the playoffs.
Kansas City Chiefs quarterback Steve DeBerg is a journeyman NFL veteran. He's played 14 seasons, many of them in a backup role, and has never won a playoff game.
Well, this is an opportunity of my lifetime, and I've waited my whole career for this. And really, you know, I'm not playing any different than I have in probably the last 8 years, but I'm surrounded by a lot of talented football players and some outstanding coaching with a very good system.
The Kansas City Chiefs meet the Miami Dolphins in this AFC wildcard playoff.
The AFC wildcard playoff, Kansas City versus Miami. Brought to you by the Budweiser family of beers, who also bring you Bud Bowl 3, coming January 27th. And by GTE. At GTE, the power is on.
The roar of the crowd, 73,000, Joe Robbie Stadium. Beautiful day for football here in Miami. The Miami Dolphins and the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC wildcard game, the second half of your doubleheader here on ABC. They are noisy. The Chiefs with an 11-5 record, second in the AFC West. The Dolphins at 12-4, second in the AFC East. Hello again, everyone. I'm Frank Gifford along with Al Michaels, Dan Deerdorf. Not Monday night, but we're delighted we are here. These two teams, we've talked to you so much already about the differences of the two teams. Both of them have developed running game. However, the Kansas City Chiefs, they love their running game with Barry Word, Christian Okoye, the two big men, and a zone blocking huge offensive line. They will try to run the football all day long. Meanwhile, the Miami Dolphins, I think when you talk about Miami, you have to consider the running game with Sammy Smith. But when you talk to Dan Marino, he'll say, running game, we'll try that. And he kind of smiles, and you know they're going to put it in the air. And if I had to pick one way this game might go, is the fact that I don't know whether Miami will be able to stop the running game of the Kansas City Chiefs. Every time they have met a strong running team, Washington, the Raiders, Buffalo, whatever, they've had a problem, Al.
Frank, we've talked so much in the build-up to this game about Steve DeBerg. We haven't talked about what's really made Kansas City go offensively, especially of late. That is the great running game. Barry Word in particular has become their starter. He's a big story in and of himself, which we'll detail during the game. And when you get tired of tackling Barry Word, who weighs 240 pounds, they bring in Christian Okoye, who weighs 260 pounds. The Chiefs are a relatively conservative team. They have Steve DeBerg having a sensational year, and a lot of credit has to go to Carl Peterson and Marty Schottenheimer, who have really turned this franchise around. But Dan, I think Frank touched on the key point. Miami has been beaten up in a way by teams like Washington with Biner and the Raiders with Jackson and Allen and Buffalo with Thurman Thomas. How do they handle Kansas City today?
And it's those 3 games in particular, Al, that really stick in their craw, because they lost that game simply because they lost the game at the line of scrimmage. And here come the big bad Kansas City Chiefs that slam the big backs at you, the huge offensive line, the huge defensive lines. And Miami knows that it's very simple here today. It's not going to be the golden arm of Dan Marino or maybe Mark Clayton making a big move downfield. It's going to be the offensive line and the defensive line. They must win their individual battles today if the Miami Dolphins are to be in this ball game.
And the coin toss is taking place at midfield. Joe Robbie Stadium nearly sold out. The local ABC affiliate guaranteed the purchase of the rest of the seats, WPLG, here in Miami, and that guaranteed that the blackout would be lifted as the Dolphins play a postseason game in their new home for the first time ever after moving from the Orange Bowl here following the 1986 season. For Kansas City, their first trip to the playoffs since they lost to the Jets in a wild card game in 1986 by a score of 35-15. The winner of this game goes to either Buffalo or Los Angeles next week, contingent on the outcome of tomorrow's game between Houston and Cincinnati. So Dan Marino, in his 8th season back in the playoffs for the first time since the Dolphins lost to New England in the AFC Championship game following the '85 campaign. And he and his offensive unit will come out onto the field after the Chiefs kick off. Nick Lowry will put it in the air for Kansas City. One break for the Chiefs is the fact that this is the late game today. This place is a lot easier for Kansas City to play in at 4 o'clock than at 1 o'clock.
There was a bright sun shining here today, and you can see the sun is off the field, and so the players won't have to deal with that. It was hot. The temperature was in the low 80s, and it is a difficult move for a team to come down from the north. Even though the Chiefs have been in Florida this week, that still is not enough to get adjusted to the heat. A real break for Kansas City that this is the late game.
Mark Logan on the near side. Stephon Adams flanking him. The temperature at game time is 81. The humidity is 76%. Nick Lowry, who will be going to the Pro Bowl. Lowry in his 11th year, and it may have been his best of all. Underway from Miami with the kick to the goal line, where James Pruitt goes back to take it and brings it back out to the 14-yard line. So Kansas City doing a good job on kick coverage. And here comes the Miami offense, led by Dan Marino with his 21 touchdowns. It's the 8th time in 8 years he has thrown 20 or more, tying a mark held by Johnny Unitas. Sammy Smith and Tony Page, and Page is a very key man, a blocker and receiver. Duper and Clayton, the Marks brothers, the wideouts. Edmonds will be going to the Pro Bowl as an alternate. And Webb and Sims have really done a job on the left side of the line, the 2 rookies. First down from the 14-yard line. Sammy Smith for a gain of about 3 in his 2nd season out of Florida. It'll be 2nd and 7. Neil Smith, no relation, makes the stop. Smith, Dan Salimua is a terrific nose tackle, and Bill Moss on the other side. Martin, Percy Snow is the #1 pick out of Michigan State. Hackett and Thomas had 20 sacks, the linebackers. The corners are great. Lewis and Ross, they'll both go to the Pro Bowl. Porter and Cherry are the safeties. Second down and 7. Marino hits Page. Until Page got hurt about halfway through the season, a lot of the Dolphins thought he was their most valuable player, not for what he has done running the ball, but blocking and catching it, and there's an example.
Let's pick up Page, and Marino will look for Page as always the checkoff man. He is a tough football player, a hard blocking football player. When he was out, the Dolphins suffered. With him in the lineup, they've got their offense rolling once again. Keep your eye on Page. He will be in a lot of the action today, both as a blocker and as a receiver.
First down, Miami at the 25. Sammy Smith picks up about 4. He takes it to the 29-yard line, and this state, of course, has turned out some great backs. You've got Emmitt Smith, the Florida star, now in Dallas, and Sammy, who played at Florida State. Good rookie year last year, and he's helped to solidify their ground game this season.
One of the interesting things to watch for here in the beginning of this game is the cat and mouse game that Kansas City is going to play with Derek Thomas, number 58. He's now on the line of scrimmage at the bottom of your screen right there. He of the 20 sacks. He's against Richmond Webb right here. I think that's a matchup that Kansas City might want to get him out of.
On 2nd and 6, Marino off the fake, drops it off to Page on a play that's worked so successfully all season, and does so here again. 2 catches for him. Percy Snow makes the tackle. It's close to a first down, and it is a first down.
And when you talk to the defensive coordinator, Bill Cowher of Kansas City, he will tell you that when Marino wants to go deep, he looks for Duper. When he wants to go to Clayton, he looks for the tough catch underneath. And when he wants to check off, he looks around, he finds Page. But both head coaches, interestingly enough, Don Shula, when you talk to him, he said, this kid is tough. He brings toughness to our ball club. We talked to Marty Schottenheimer last night, asked him about Page. He said, he brings toughness to their ball club. Tony Page.
Back-to-back first downs for Miami. Garrett Limbrick is in the game, set in the slot to the left. Marino back to throw, and Marino's first toss is too high, intended for Duper, who was blanketed by Kevin Ross. It'll be 2nd and 10.
I don't think it's too early to talk about the turnover ratio either of Kansas City. They led the league far and away with plus 26. 20 interceptions. They have great cornerbacks in Kevin Ross, Albert Lewis. They play man for man. They play it tough. They play it tight. And usually when you get a man for man team, they don't get that many interceptions. But this team is plus 26, far and away the leader in the National Football League. They have lived by it, and it's paid off handsomely.
2nd and 10. Page is back in. Marino sends Duper left and Clayton to the right, and puts Farrell Edmonds, the tight end, in the slot to the right. And underneath he hits Clayton, and Mark Clayton has another Miami first down as they've taken the opening kickoff and moved it out to the 48-yard line. Albert Lewis, the corner, and Dan Saliamua make the stop.
Take a look at it again. We talked about Clayton's toughness underneath. Almost a little bit of a pick play, but now he sees in the inside. Saliamua is there. He pulls up, and Marino is right there with it. And Dan, you're so right. They are moving Derek Thomas from side to side, trying to get him free, trying to get him one-on-one.
Dolphins at the 47-yard line. Smith breaks a tackle, takes it to the 50. You know, I'm thinking, Dan, in a way, this typifies the change in Miami's offense. Maybe in the past they would throw the bomb, they'd score quickly, but here they are moving very methodically and quite satisfactorily.
You haven't even seen a fly pattern yet, and a lot of times in the past, without a Sammy Smith in the backfield, the Dolphins more often than not would be in a 4 wide receiver set. I mean, you've seen them in shotgun formation before on first down, but oh, what a different team this is with that man running the ball and the addition of 2 outstanding rookie offensive linemen on the left side, Sims and Webb.
2nd and 7 at the 50, 10:30 to go, first quarter with no score. Sammy Smith tries the right side this time, picks up about 3 more. The ball came loose after the tackle. Lewis Cooper, Dan Saliamua in on the tackle, and it will be 3rd and about 4.
Old man Webster. Mike Webster. They have already got the pedestal waiting for him in Canton, Ohio. All we have to do is put the finishing touches on the bust. One of the great centers ever in the National Football League. A reserve role now with Kansas City. What a player he was.
3rd and 4. They go to their 4 wideout set, and Jensen is in the backfield with Marino. Pruitt and Martin are the extra wideouts with Duper and Clayton. Marino has to step up and get sacked at the 50-yard line by Neil Smith. You know, so much attention paid to Derek Thomas this year and all his sacks. You tend to overlook Neil Smith, who's had a great season.
That was just fine coverage downfield. Marino had time on a 3rd down and 4 to get to a receiver to just top coverage. And here is Neil Smith coming to the outside. Marino looks, can't find anyone. The block is pretty good by Mark Dennis. Marino just could not find the receiver. And it looked like he almost lost the football. Good coverage by Kansas City in the secondary.
Too late to review, and a low snap, and a nice pickup by Roby, but he has it blocked. And the Chiefs excel at that. Charles Washington, who was just activated and had blocked the kick during the regular year when the Chiefs as a team blocked 6. This man was put on the roster only because in the last 2 weeks, 2 punts have been run back against Kansas City for touchdown. Schottenheimer said, I need him on my special teams. There's your bonus.
And that was not a breakdown in protection. It was a low snap. It caused Roby to be late. He was deliberate in his kick, and Kansas City does again what they have been doing all season long.
Well, the Chiefs during the regular year with their 6 blocks, one by Washington against Cleveland. Albert Lewis had 4, Porter the other. And the block kick sets them up at the 38, where Barry Word swings to the outside and goes out of bounds after a gain of 3. Jarvis Williams makes the tackle.
Here's Washington right here over the center, but he just kind of lazily loops in there. It's really not his job to block a punt here. But Beatty one-hops the ball back to Roby. A minute's hesitation in getting the ball up, and alertly Washington sees he has an opportunity and takes advantage of it. But the poor snap from Beatty, and Kurt Schottenheimer, whose job was a bone of contention in Cleveland when he was coaching there for his brother, is enjoying a sweet season indeed.
2nd and 7. As Word again goes nowhere. Brian Sauché wraps him up. Third and long as we detail the Kansas City offense. Steve DeBerg playing with that fractured finger. Incredibly, 23 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions this season. He has Barry Word with him. We'll see Okoye a lot as well. Bill Jones. McNair comes in on 3rd down. Thomas and Page the wideouts. Hayes the tight end. And the Chiefs, like the Dolphins, have 2 rookies in the interior, Zott and Grunhard. McNair is in the game on 3rd and 12. They like to go to McNair a lot on 3rd down. This time it is picked off by Lewis Oliver. Flag is down at the 33 as Oliver takes it back to the 40. Penalty marker.
Flag came in well after the ball was intercepted. DeBerg is indicating it's against Miami.
Defensive pass interference. Defense.
Boy, they might actually even be calling that on Lewis Oliver. Let's look at it. The ball's going to be going away from us at the top of your screen. There's Oliver, and that is interference. That's a good call. He levels Rob Thomas, the chief receiver.
Pass interference. Defense. First down.
Well, the crowd here at Joe Robbie Stadium is booing lustily, but I don't think there's much doubt about it when you looked at it from that angle. Oliver got there way in advance of the football and dropped the Kansas City receiver, Rob Thomas.
He flattened Thomas. A couple of counts before the ball was thrown.
First down, Kansas City. No score. 7:34 remaining in the opening quarter. DeBerg on 1st and 10. Throws it underneath, and it's dropped by Barry Word. That's the one thing the Kansas City running backs do not do very well. Neither Okoye nor Word really catches the ball with much effectiveness. Here's the Miami defense now. And we'll keep an eye on Sean Lee, who's been in traction, the nose tackle. That's Oglesby getting the start in the middle, the rookie, flanked by Turner and Cross, who's their sack man. Briggs, Offerdahl's terrific. Going to the Pro Bowl again. Odom came over from Indy, and the venerable Hugh Green. McKyer, the former Niner. J.B. Brown celebrating his 24th birthday. Williams and Oliver are the safeties. 2nd and 10 at the 32-yard line. Barry Word to the 29-yard line. It's going to be 3rd and 6. Hugh Green in his 10th year out of Pittsburgh. He's trying to get to the Super Bowl and trying to hook up with his old running mate at Pitt, Ricky Jackson, now playing with the Saints. He's been around that long.
Kansas City really likes to go with the play action, but if you can control them on 1st and 2nd, you get them into a situation that Miami has them in now where they'll probably come out of their shotgun. There's no reason to go with play action because Miami's thinking nothing but pass.
3rd down and 6. Chiefs come up with 4 wideouts. And their third down specialist, McNair, number 48. They send McNair out into the pattern. It's thrown underneath to an open Stephon Page. First down, takes it to the 10. Jarvis Williams makes the stop, and not often will you see a man of that caliber, Page, get that open. 19-yard pickup.
Well, a little bit of action for Page to break underneath. Not a pick play per se, but it was a crossing pattern, and a couple of Dolphin defenders got all tied up in it. And Stephon Page, you're right, Al, he came free over the middle, wide open. And plenty of time to get the ball to Stephon Page by DeBerg. That's one that could have drawn a flag, that crisscrossing pattern.
It's 1st and 10. They could get a first down without a touchdown. Barry Word just inside the 9. 5:50 remaining in the first quarter with no score. Aquadol makes the stop, and this one pretty much beginning the way we expected it to. A lot of running and a fast and rapidly paced quarter. Let's take a look at DeBerg handing off with that wrapping.
Yeah, here's the one where he makes it with his left hand. Barry Word moving to the offense's right. That necessitates the quarterback using his left hand, getting it in there. A good, clean exchange by Steve DeBerg, who tells us it's not really a problem.
On 2nd and 8, DeBerg fires, and it's incomplete. He was able to drill it in between, tried to get it through to Stephon Page, and Lewis Oliver with the coverage. And a little barking going on.
On 3rd down and 8, as we look once again, DeBerg looking all the way for Stephon Page, and that'll attract the defense much more quickly. And good coverage. But the 4 wide receivers come in, and also coming out of the backfield, McNair, number 48. They like to use him down in this area.
In this area, as you can see, once inside the 20, the Chiefs have bogged down this year. They've gotten it into the end zone only 4 times out of 10. The league average better than half. Play clock ticks down. They get it away on 3rd and 8, and DeBerg fires into the end zone, and it's knocked down by Paul Langford, number 44. The longtime Dolphin defensive back, who's now in a reserve role, plays in the nickel and dime defense on a pass intended for Stephon Page.
Actually, Langford sits in the middle as the spy. If he does not get a hand on this ball, this is a Kansas City touchdown. Look how open the receiver is in the end zone. Page is standing right there. An extremely alert play by Paul Langford, or Kansas City has a lead in this ball game.
Nick Lowry comes in to kick. He's had a sensational year. 27-yard attempt. He made his last 21 during the regular season. The streak will not be extended or ended today. Postseason doesn't count along with the regular year. Doesn't matter to Lowry. But one reason he kicked so many field goals this year is that the Chiefs did just what they did there. They bogged down inside the 20 and settled for 3. Back at Joe Robbie Stadium in Miami, where Kansas City, thanks to a Nick Lowry field goal, has assumed a 3-0 lead with 5:04 to go in the quarter. Pruitt and Logan are back to receive for Miami. And Lowry, who had not kicked a touchback since very early in the season, booms this one deep enough into the end zone that Miami will have to take it at the 20. Marino and the Dolphins taking over with 4:54 to go in the first quarter.
Nothing beats it.
A reminder, the season premiere of the Pro Bowlers Tour coming your way next Saturday, 3 Eastern and Pacific, 2 Central, the $175,000 AC Delco Classic right here on ABC. 4:54 remaining in the first quarter. The Miami Dolphins trailing Kansas City 3-0, taking over, and Marino on 1st and 10 lines up in the shotgun from the 20-yard line. Good protection and incomplete. The coverage was excellent. Sammy Smith down the sideline, covered by Kevin Porter.
It's good coverage again, and Marino had to hold on to the ball so long, Dan, that he really got planted about this point with the coverage right on him. That's Kevin Porter. Marino has to let go of the ball right here. He feels the sack, and he does not have time to get the completion. But more importantly, Bill Moss really laid one on Dan Marino.
2nd and 10. They don't go to Smith very often, but Kansas City has to be mindful of him. He caught a 53-yard touchdown pass last week against Indianapolis. Now Smith, in a more conventional sense, runs for 13 and gets popped by Porter again. So Porter covering whether he's receiving or running.
Boy, what a good open field tackle by Kevin Porter. Wide open at the line of scrimmage. Right behind Keith Sims, the left guard. Richmond Webb on the left side. You see Sims working right there against Moss, makes him disappear. And watch this hit right at the belt buckle by Porter. I mean, right on the hip, and he puts Sammy Smith down. Sammy Smith might have taken that the distance.
First down Miami. They have 4 in the quarter. Here is Smith again, and this time he goes nowhere. He runs into big 97, Dan Saliamua, along with Leonard Griffin. They converge to make the tackle. He is Saliamua, maybe the plan B pickup of all time to this point, as Kansas City took a chance, opted to bring him over. And in his 4th year, he has really done a whale of a job in the middle.
Well, he's allowed them to move Bill Moss, who for years was a nose tackle, let him play outside. Saliamua has really anchored, and if you're going to play a 3-4, you have no chance of stopping the run without a real man playing nose tackle.
They plucked him from Detroit. Now this is Logan carrying for the first time. He takes it out to the 39-yard line. Saliamua and Cooper in on the tackle. Mark Logan, the former Bengal, in his 4th year out of Kentucky.
Well, one of the guys to watch is this man, Derek Thomas, one of the fine draft choices of all time. You see Harry Galbraith, the right guard, came over and puts the trap first and then the hook on Thomas. When you get 20 sacks, people are going to watch your every move. And there, of course, a look at Richmond Webb, the 9th player taken in this draft, and a fine selection for Miami.
Kansas City is in what they call their 6-man defensive back setup.
And on 3rd and 4, it's Mark Duper making the catch, picking up the first down, and the crowd goes Duper, Duper. Kevin Ross makes the tackle after a 12-yard gain. First down Dolphins.
Good read by both Duper and Marino. The Chiefs went into his own defense. Now watch Duper. Now he eases it up right here. Marino puts it down low, but he gets the first down out of it as Lloyd Burris was stepping in, and he gets it right between the 2 defenders.
Looks like when Duper Frank stutter stepped there a little bit, he really confused Ross. Ross almost came to a halt out there on his coverage.
First down Miami at the 49 of KC. 2 minutes to go in the quarter. 3-0 Chiefs. Fake to Smith. Marino has to step up, and Marino goes down at midfield. There's a flag down in the secondary. Neil Smith made the tackle, but 15 yards downfield is a marker.
And that's the 2nd sack of Marino, and the 2nd time when he's sacked that he's not even attempting to find an open receiver. Such was the coverage in the Kansas City secondary, but now we get an indication as to why.
Well, Albert Lewis and Mark Clayton were in a duel on the sidelines, and it drew a late flag, I think. But Marino again looking great with great coverage.
Number 29, defense, first down.
That was deep downfield. Actually, the coverage was good enough. Let's take a look at it. One of the best man-for-man defenders in the league. Top of your screen will be number 29. And here's Neil Smith with the pressure. At this point, it is Albert Lewis and Mark Clayton in a duel that draws the flag.
Yeah, they called Lewis for making contact beyond that 5-yard zone where you're allowed to make a hit.
For the record, our referee is Pat Haggerty as Mark Logan picks up 8, takes it to the 37. Percy Snow makes the tackle. Mark Logan has played in a postseason game in this stadium, the only one played in this stadium, the Super Bowl 2 years ago, San Francisco and Cincinnati. He was a Bengal then.
Oh, what a good run by Logan that time. That's a play that's intended to hit inside the trap. They tried to trap Bill Moss. It wasn't there, and Logan bounces it to the outside very alertly. That's just an 8-yard pickup for a running back that, if he just ran in there with his eyes closed, pounds out for 1 or 2.
2nd and 3. 50 seconds to go in the quarter. 3-0 Kansas City. Can't get out of the backfield, and Derek Thomas, who had 20 sacks with a tackle for a loss is how that one is ruled. If you don't follow football that closely, if you tackle a runner in the backfield, it is not a sack.
Playing before the home crowd, if you will. He went to South Miami High School. Now watch this. Page is trying to put the block. He got a shoulder under Page, and we talked about what a good blocker Page is, and he is that, but Derek Thomas just beat him on that play. Got low and came up under the block.
3rd down and 6. Marino fires and incomplete. A little miscommunication there as Mark Clayton had cut the pattern off. Marino overshoots him, and that's the way the period will terminate. Kansas City 3, Miami nothing after 1. We'll be back with the AFC wildcard playoff game after this commercial message and a word from our ABC station. Start the second quarter in Miami. Al Michaels, Frank Gifford, Dan Dierdorf, and Miami at least will line up to attempt what would be a 57-yard field goal by Pete Stoyanovich. The blocker supreme Lewis to the outside. He has kicked a 59-yarder, and indeed he puts it up, and it is good.
Oh yeah.
An all-time NFL playoff record. 58-yard field goal for Pete Stoyanovich.
That's tougher off a natural surface than it would be off artificial.
And that did not hit the crossbar and bounce over either. That kick would have been good from at least 2 yards farther away.
Sequels with a good hold of a good snap. It takes 3 to put one through from a distance like that. You have to have the snap low, and that enables the kicker to get the ball off more quickly because you have to kick it lower. Jeff Julian Lake, the snapper.
Eddie Murray of the Detroit Lions had held the record. The longest postseason field goal in NFL history had been 54 yards. This one is 58.
Oh, I love those guys when they make them.
28 years later as a head coach, still showing the emotion.
Alex Karras somewhere just said, I can't believe this. What's this game coming to?
Tom Dempsey saying somewhere, oh, I wonder if this guy's going to break my record.
Yeah. I remember that 59-yarder against the Jets, the Giants Stadium, and the gale wind was blowing that day. Nothing of the sort today. That was a beautiful execution on the part of all 3 involved.
And a great deal of confidence shown by Don Shula and Pete Stoyanovich. Knowing your kicker, he must have had a good week.
A great week.
And the ball keeps blowing off the tee. Although you don't see the paper on top of the 2 goalposts moving much. The ball keeps falling off the tee right at ground level.
Well, there are tunnels here.
Well, that's up above the stadium. But look at that, not a whole lot down on the field.
Tunnels here at either end in the end zone, and the wind comes through and can create some swirl. 5 seconds into the second quarter. Stojanovich's kick taken 1 yard deep in the end zone, and they don't know what to do with it. And Fred Jones, after hesitating, brings it out to the 15-yard line. Fred Jones didn't know whether to come out, stay in. Todd McNair was trying to give him some advice.
Well, maybe McNair did not give him concise advice.
Now, you can't have indecision back there as a return man. You're either going to go or you're not going to go right here. And he should have got the information right there. He's being told to stay in, but just screaming at him. And now he sees that he's in trouble.
Well, I take it back.
Loses a full second and a half on that.
I want to take it back about not getting concise advice. McNair was right there saying, stay in the end zone. And he came out anyway.
And then Jones had the presence to know once he was out, hey, you got to keep going. Once you're out, you're out. You can't take it back in. DeBerg on first down. Open is Page, and Page Out to the 47-yard line, a gain of 32. J.B. Brown with the tackle.
Play action once again, and Steve DeBerg is a master of this. Anyone will tell you this around the league. He hides the ball as well as anyone who's ever gone with the play action. Let's take a look at it once again. This is how you get so wide open. There is the play action. He puts that sore hand in there. It takes a pounding, but coming from the opposite side of the field, Stephon Page wide open, close to midfield.
33-yard pickup, first down at the 47-yard line. Great protection. Open over the middle is Rob Thomas. He makes the catch, and Rob Thomas has developed into a good possession receiver. 14-yard gain, and the son of a former teammate of yours, Frank.
Aaron Thomas and I played with the Giants for 3 years back in the 60s. Aaron much bigger than Rob. As a matter of fact, Aaron about 6'3" and had great speed. Rob doesn't have the height nor the great speed, but he works so well under coverage. Finds the open spot, and he is tenacious. He'll fight for the football, and he comes up with another first down.
First and 10, Kansas City at the Miami 38-yard line. Here's Barry Word. He gets 3. Second and 7.
You know, guys, one of the real problems with Kansas City, as we take a fabulous look here at Joe Robbie Stadium, one of the problems with Kansas City's play-action passing game as far as Miami is concerned, and we've seen some wide-open people, Frank, is the fact that Oliver and Williams, they're two great safeties, are great run support guys, big, strong, physical guys who are going to be quick to bite on any sort of a play action. They're one of the real reasons Miami has improved dramatically on their run defense. That also translates into open receivers on a play action pass.
There's the play action again.
Second and 8. And DeBerg tried to jam it into Alfredo Roberts, the tight end. He was blanketed by Hugh Green.
I'll second that, Dan. When you have safety men like the Miami Dolphins, Williams and Oliver, they love to hit, and they're going to be looking at that quarterback. If they even smell that he's going to hand it off, they're going to be up there trying to fill right behind the line of scrimmage. And nobody hides it quite like DeBerg. Let's take a look at that once again. Puts it right in there and pulls it out. The danger of that, of course, is you might bump it against the running back and lose the football, and particularly since DeBerg is almost one-handed out there.
Third and 8 at the 35. Game tied 3-3 early in the second quarter. DeBerg to the 30-yard line. Page makes the catch, but he's short of the first down and slow in the rising. Tim McKyer popped him after Page makes his third catch of the game and pays for it. Page off to a good start today and had 2 terrific games last year when these two teams met twice. And Kansas City won both times. Gets hit by McKyer, who made a few headlines this week.
He really did. There is Tim McKyer, the former 49er, who is like a lone voice in the wilderness here in Miami. Don Shula's team always seemed to characterize him more stoic than anything else. I think this might be a case where Page fell on the football. It's not a vicious hit by McKyer, but when he goes down, it looks like Stephon Page fell right onto the football, especially on his right side, on that right shoulder area. See him go down right there.
See when you hit that elbow on the surface and you have the weight of the other player on top of you, it's kind of scary.
The best case scenario would be he's got the wind knocked out, and the worst case would be he fell on that arm and somehow did some damage to the shoulder joint. But Tim McKyer, to get back to McKyer, what a vocal player he has been, especially this week. He has criticized the Kansas City secondary. He has criticized just about everything that has walked in a Kansas City uniform, and has kind of drawn the wrath of not only Don Shula, but Dan Marino and some of his other Miami teammates that would prefer that he maintain somewhat of a lower profile. Don Shula is not exactly a quote machine during game week.
Take a look at it once again. McKyer with good coverage, covering Page all the way across the field. Now his entire weight is on Page as they both make contact on the grass. Page now is up and looks like he may be okay. We certainly hope so.
Well, this is a case when you fall like this, better to fall on a very nice soft grass field like there is here at Joe Robbie Stadium than if he'd have landed on the turf at Arrowhead back in Kansas City.
It's going to be 4th down and 2.
And they're going to go for it.
Well, Marty Schottenheimer in a situation where Lowry has been, well, as hot as it can be with 21 in a row, but maybe feeling against the wind here. It's a little bit out of Lowry's range, or what Schottenheimer would perceive to be against the wind after looking at Stoyanovic's kick.
The long two, by the way.
DeBerg under heat throws it, picked off at the 11-yard line by Jarvis Williams.
Well, you could say it's better than a missed field goal.
Yep, same as a pooch punt.
Williams should have dropped the ball. Jarvis Williams would have been a lot better off if he wouldn't have caught that.
Sure, otherwise it would have come out to the line of scrimmage.
He's still celebrating. I don't think he's figured that all out yet.
Now you're asking the impossible. I'd have caught the ball too. That's an instinct. The Dolphins would have been better served though.
12:06 left, first half in Miami. One of these odd situations here where it's a little deceiving when you think of the wind. They're telling us down on the field it doesn't look like there's much wind there at the top of the goalpost, but it blows in through the tunnels. My feeling is Schottenheimer saw Stojanovic kick a 58-yarder the other way. He said, I'm not going to chance Lowry kicking a 47-yard field goal in the opposite direction. They opt for a 4th down conversion, don't get it. Miami has it at the 12, first down. Marino. Taken by the tight end, Edmonds at the 20. He wrestles his way to the 23 and enough for a first down.
Dan Marino giving us his version of a Randall Cunningham, rolling out, sprinting out, putting pressure on the secondary until somebody comes open, and it was the big tight end, Farrell Edmonds. He was looking deep for Clayton. Clayton well covered, and he pulled up and drilled one to Edmonds.
The guy who made a great play that time was Derek Thomas, because I think Tony Page there was the intended receiver. Derek Thomas smothers him and then goes after Edmonds, and Mark Clayton, you can see, judiciously decided, I don't think I'll take on Derek Thomas.
1st and 10 up at the 23-yard line. Sammy Smith out to the 26. While Smith has solidified their rushing game this season, his average per carry is a rather ordinary 3.7. And we can tell you this AFC playoff game is being brought to you by Dodge for performance, quality, safety, and value. Welcome home, America. And by Bud Dry. Why ask why? Bud Dry, for refreshment that's beyond question. Goodyear blimp Spirit of Akron. Newest blimp in the Goodyear fleet, hovering above Joe Robbie Stadium in Miami. Game tied 3-3. 2nd down and 7. Dolphins at their own 27-yard line. Smith gains 1. Derek Thomas comes up to make the tackle with 10.5 minutes to go in the half.
Smith opened the season with 159 yards against New England, and I think everyone for the next 2 or 3 weeks were thinking that Miami just had turned around and they were all of a sudden a running team, but that carried over for quite a while. But he came back at the final game last week with 108 yards against Indianapolis. Now, they can run the ball so much better than they have over the past few years.
You saw the yards per carry. The Dolphins as a team averaged 3.7. The league average this year was 4.1. 3rd and 6 up at the 27. And it's caught by Tony Martin on a slant. First down up at the 35-yard line. Kevin Ross with the tackle.
Tony Martin, he has a lot of speed on the outside. And this is breaking away from Kevin Ross, a fine cornerback. Ross, pretty good coverage on that move, but Martin and Marino teaming up for a first down. Marino puts that ball. If you're a defender, you have got to be absolutely dead perfect. And on a slant, it's almost impossible because he always has it in front of the receiver or down low, whereas the defender, you've got to interfere before you can make a deflection.
1st and 10, Dolphins at the 35. Play clock down to 2-1 as they snap it, and it's knocked down by Leonard Griffin, number 98. 2nd and 10.
Leonard Griffin this time just working against Mark Dennis. The right tackle doesn't get much in the way of penetration and throws up that right hand and gets lucky. Steve DeBerg rests on the Kansas City sideline. What a courageous man.
Earlier, if you missed it, Washington upset Philadelphia 20-6. Eagles gone again in the first round of the playoffs. On go the Redskins. 2nd and 10 from the 35. Marino, a bullet too hard for Clayton. But Mark has caught a number of those over the years. He's seen that before. He has seen that velocity before. Just dropped it.
The best of them now will do that. A perfectly thrown ball. You know, you've got a clear field. He sensed no one around him, and he was wide open. Just for a brief moment, he took his eyes off the ball, started to think, where am I going to go with it now? And right here, he is thinking, where will I take this thing?
He looks like he was in between, Frank, not sure whether to catch it with his hands
you
or
can get in there too, but
slide all the way in front and catch it with the body.
He's up in the hundreds of receptions he's had from Dan Marino, not to mention the thousands of practice.
3rd down and 10. Miami from the 35. 8:54 to go in the half. The game tied at 3. Big rush is on, and then Marino gets sacked at the 30-yard line. He was able to step up, and then Lewis Cooper will get credit for the sack back at the 30. Bill Cowher very pleased with the work of his defense. That time they blitzed the corner, Stan Petrie.
Well, they're playing 6 defensive backs, and they brought Petrie from the corner that time.
What a play by Richmond Webb, picking up that safety blitz and letting Marino stay alive a little longer. They still have to punt, but this Webb, what a sensational player for a rookie.
Here's Reggie Roby. A wobbly kick, but good distance. Fielded at the 15-yard line by Emil Harry, and he weaves his way back out to the 21. Miami and Roby with a 55-yard kick, 6-yard run back. Chief ball, 8:21 to go. We're tied in the first half. Lee on the deck there?
No, that's Dan's weekend little toy that he has.
That's right. It's quite a wake, but it's still, you're able to water ski behind it.
Kansas City has the ball. Stephon Page is back in the game. First down from the 22. Barry Word. Barry Word is a terrific story. Here's a guy, came out of the University of Virginia, spent 4.5 months in a prison in West Virginia on a cocaine distribution conviction. Saints drafted him, spent a year with him, and then part of another, and then left and worked for GTE last year, and the Chiefs took a chance on him, brought him into camp. Schottenheimer had a long talk with him, and look at those numbers for a guy who started the season number 2 on the depth chart behind Chris Okoye. 2nd and 7 as Barry Word slices out to the 29. It'll be 3rd and 2.
There's number 2, and then there's number 2 behind a guy who was the league's leading rusher the previous year. I mean, Barry Word was looking at not playing at all. So not only does he gain 1,000 yards, but when Kansas City needs big yards, look what he gets for them.
And he has really become number 1.
Yeah.
He's been more effective than Okoye. There is Christian. And Okoye has also been injured this year, and it's been the shoulder that's bothered him.
But he still slammed it in there for 805 yards.
Yep. Not a bad 1-2 punch. Out of the gun on 3rd and 2 from the 29. Dolphins rush 4. Pass is too high for Page. He's covered well by McKyer. 4th down.
Well, McKyer is signaling he's number 1. Actually, that was a poorly thrown football. It caught the wind. We saw that wind that we talked about earlier, and that ball just took off and sailed on DeBerg.
The Kansas City punter, Brian Barker, he did not start the season. Kelly Goodburn did, and it's Goodburn's good luck to wind up in the playoffs with Washington. Meanwhile, Mark Clayton will return his first kick since 1986. Don Shula putting him back there in special situations today, but he's going to fair catch this one at the 36. Offense have had trouble running back punts, and Shula figures why not? Maybe Clayton can break one, but not at this particular moment. 3-3. So a reminder, tomorrow the World Swimming and Diving Championships from Perth, Australia, coming your way at 1 Eastern, 12 Central and Pacific, and also the Infinity Tournament of Champions at 3 Eastern, 2 Central and Pacific, right here tomorrow. Miami from the 37 on first down. It's Tony Page taking the pass, picking up 9, taking it out to the 46-yard line. 2nd and 1. Hackett and Ross in on the tackle with 6:35 to go in the half.
Tony Page, who elicits the same kind of response from both coaches. Don Shula, what does Tony Page bring to your team? Toughness. Marty Schottenheimer, what do you think about Tony Page? He brings toughness to that team. When you impress both the head coaches that way, it must be true.
Dan Marino, the new Marino, 7 of 12. It's a good percentage, but 66 yards. Page picks up the first down on 2nd and 1, takes it to the 48. Derek Thomas makes the stop as they rewrap the great John Offerdahl, who will be going to the Pro Bowl again at inside linebacker.
Tony Page, by the way, a Plan B player that came from Detroit, and you wonder why Miami was able to pick him up. He certainly was available when Detroit had him. They were in their run and shoot offense, and he just certainly didn't fit that pattern. So he fits perfectly here in Miami for what Don Shula wants. He is a good receiver out of the backfield, terrific blocker, just a tough football player all the way around.
5:28 to go in the half. Smith. And Smith is able to fight to the 41-yard line of Kansas City for a Miami first down behind a block by Dan's newfound favorite, Richmond Webb.
Well, Richmond Webb was at the point of attack. Key Sims was at the point of attack, and an outstanding lead block by Tony Page. The three of them all working on the left side. This Richmond Webb, I mean, I am just in love with this guy's ability to play the game. For a rookie to be that efficient at offensive tackle is almost unheard of. I mean, I think we have to go back to the great Anthony Munoz coming into the league to find a player the equal of Richmond Webb.
A Deerdorfian type block.
I mean, I was nothing like that when I was a rookie.
1st and 10 from the 41. Play fake. Marino going deep. Too deep. Coverage was there as well. Albert Lewis was covering on the play. Mark Clayton couldn't spring free. 2nd down.
Clayton gave a drive move to Albert Lewis on the inside, who is a good man-for-man defender. We talked about it earlier in the game. One of the best has ever come along. He went for the move, but he was able to recover. He's so quick getting to the outside, and Marino had to overthrow it. Now look at him get back. He took the drive move to the inside, was able to get back where Marino had to overthrow it. Two fine cornerbacks, Albert Lewis and Kevin Ross.
2nd and 10, 4:34 left. First half, Kansas City and Miami tied 3-3. Here's Smith for not much. Sammy to the 39-yard line. Neil Smith makes the tackle, and it's going to be 3rd down and 8.
4 wides now come in for the Miami Dolphins. Tony Martin comes in along with James Pruitt. They'll work on the outside, and they'll work Clayton in motion along the line of scrimmage, trying to free him up. Now, what defensive coordinator Bill Cowher likes to do for Kansas City is give Marino a look that when he comes up to the line of scrimmage, he does not know what defense they're going to be in. Consequently, he does not know when he pulls away from the center, or in this case gets the snap from the shotgun, what defense they are ultimately going to wind up in.
3rd and 8 at the 39. 3:50 to go in the half. Game tied 3-3. Protected well. Marino throws, and it's incomplete. He tried to jam it into James Pruitt, who was double covered on the play. And it will be 4th down. The line of scrimmage is the 39, and here comes Stoyanovich again.
You mentioned Dan Marino, Al, having to jam the ball in. That's really, on 90% of his passes, what he's being relegated to by the tremendous coverage by the Chiefs secondary.
6 defensive backs again, and they do it time and time again in pass situations, and it is working for them.
Marino is really struggling to find an open man.
Here we go again. He already kicked one from 58, so this is a chip shot. 57. Secules to put it down, who did a nice job the last time getting it down. And this kick is no good. Just a little short. Just a little short.
And now here's the price you pay for missing that field goal because Kansas City's going to get the ball at the 39-yard line.
3:36 remaining in the half. Ooh, so close.
Tremendous edge in time of possession. Kansas City unable to do what they want to do, and that is run the football. And take a look at the slip now on the long field goal attempt by Stoyanovich. Seam slip right there, the dirt fly up.
Still almost made it. Christian Okoye's first carry of the game is a memorable one as he takes it to the 45-yard line of the Dolphins. A 16-yard gallop for the Nigerian Nightmare.
Christian missed 2 of the last 3 games. The last week, a game against the Bears, he came in and gained over 100 yards, and he was running more like the Christian Okoye of last week against the Bears than he had all year long. And Barry Word had just about replaced him, certainly did as a starter, but he looked good last week against the Bears, and that's a fine sprint there.
Well, Word had carried for only 12 yards on 7 carries. Okoye picks up 16 there and 3 here. It'll be 2nd and 7 with 2:50 to go in the half, and the game time 3-3. Hugh Green, to a chorus of Hughes, makes the tackle.
Neither Okoye or Word are what you call your basic outside runners. And what Miami has done thus far is they've taken everything, Dan, they've tried to do off tackle and strung it out to the outside, and they are not cut up guys.
Well, that time the guy who strung it was Hugh Green. Al gave him credit on the tackle. He beat a double team and took on Okoye and won.
2nd and 7 at the 42-yard line. The cast on the left arm of Grunhard. DeBerg steps up, avoids a Green sack, throws complete. First down. Page run out of bounds at the 26-yard line. Stephon Page.
Again, the play action, and if you followed Christian Okoye, don't be upset about it because DeBerg actually makes it look almost magical. He gets a hand in there. Sometimes he'll even put the ball in there. And Page comes all the way from across the field underneath the coverage, and getting there too late is Jarvis Williams. We talked about Jarvis Williams, Lewis Oliver. They're big defensive safety men. They're not the kinds of guys you want in man-for-man coverage. That time Kansas City got the best of the matchups with Page on Jarvis Williams.
First half comes down to the 2-minute warning. That much time left as DeBerg comes over to talk to Schottenheimer, and the game tied 3-3. Florida, Al Michaels with Frank Gifford and Dan Deerdorf.
Don Johnson, a late arrival for the game today.
Yeah, very late. 2 minutes to go in the half. 1st and 10 KC at the Miami 26-yard line. Game tied 3-3. DeBerg going for Page. Touchdown.
There's a flag back at the quarterback, and it might have been for roughing the passer. Yep, that's what it is.
It's Emil Harry who is shaken up. He is the injured chief. He was away from the play. DeBerg is fine. It is against Hugh Green for the penalty, and the guy who's in agony is Harry.
Meanwhile, Stephon Page just blew by J.B. Brown, and a perfectly thrown ball, and Harry appears to be all right. 4-man in that pattern, and DeBerg again doesn't even look off. Stephon Page just roars by J.B. Brown, wide open, and just about as well as you can throw a football by Steve DeBerg.
When these two teams met last year in the 2 games, Page caught 10 balls, including 2 for touchdowns. He's no stranger to Miami.
There's the blow to the head, and that will get the flag every time. Hugh Green driving around the block. Blow to the head. DeBerg staggers out in time to see the official indicate the 6.
They'll assess it on the kickoff. Lowry for the point after. So the Chiefs score the first touchdown of the game, and with 1:54 remaining in the first half, it is now 10-3, and DeBerg and Page combining to put Kansas City up by 7.
Well, if you're a Miami Dolphin fan, that was scary easy, that drive. They did it on the ground, and they did it easily from way out. It was DeBerg to Page for 6 points, and an easy one indeed.
Replacing the old Enterprise, hovering above Joe Robbie Stadium here in Miami in the late afternoon. 80-degree day. Stephon Page, huge half. 5 receptions, including the last one for a 26-yard touchdown from Steve DeBerg, who's always smiling. Nick Lowry. And he gains the benefit of the penalty, kicking off from midfield instead of his own 35. And that results in a touchback with 1:54 remaining in the first half. Tonight, America's watching ABC for an all-new episode of The Young Riders, followed by an all-time movie classic. Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd headline the cast in Ghostbusters after The Young Riders tonight on ABC. First down, Miami from the 20. Marino comes up in the shotgun with 4 wideouts, and Jensen flanking him in the backfield. Caught and then dropped, incomplete. Clayton couldn't hold it up at the 27. Burris covers, 2nd and 10.
Burris, one of those additional backs in, as once again Kansas City has kind of bewildered the Miami offense, but their 6 defensive backs been very effective.
Good job by Burris of attacking the football. Watch the way he's going to go after the ball. Now there the ball comes into Clayton. Watch the right hand come in and knock the ball right out. Before Clayton could get the 2nd foot down and make it a legal catch, Lloyd Burris gets there and knocks the ball away. That was intentional, going directly for the football.
2nd and 10 from the 20. Marino a subpar 7 of 15 for 66 yards. Zooms one incomplete, too deep, intended for Mark Duper. 3rd and 10.
And this defense thus far that the Kansas City Chiefs have put on the field with the 6 defensive backs has really got the Miami offense puzzled. They have had success in the middle of it. It's kind of uncharacteristic of Kansas City because they like to go man to man. They are doing man for man up short, but they are playing a 3 deep in the middle. And it really has Miami stumped thus far.
Well, it's a secondary that has gotten its share of acclaim, which made it triply amazing that Warren Moon was able to do what he did against them at the end of the year with 527 yards.
And this will be a 4 wide receiver set like Houston would utilize.
3rd down and 10. Jensen picks up the first down. What a play by Jensen, who was able to knife between Martin and Pearson, and Pearson kicks the turf in disgust. And a timeout called by Miami. Jim Jensen knowing exactly how far he had to get for the first down. The last 7 yards were all his. 1:32 to go in the half. 10-3 KC.
Don't touch anything. This is a science.
Winner goes to either Buffalo or LA next week. Loser goes on vacation. First down from the 31. Marino throws from Martin, and it's incomplete, and the flag is down as Martin took a vicious late hit by Lloyd Burris, and that's going to cost the Chiefs.
And that was uncalled for on the part of Burris. There's no way that ball could have been caught.
We had a personal foul on number 24, defense.
Well, actually, it's on number 34 defense, not 24. And really, I think what drew the flag was going to the head. Watch the right hand to the side of the helmet. That's what draws the flag. Well, actually, Burris was coming in. His timing was okay. He can't pull up once he reaches a certain point, but that was an intentional shot to the side of Tony Martin's head.
And that'll draw it every time. It really hurts Kansas City.
It makes it 1st and 10 up at the 46 to the chagrin of Schottenheimer with 1:26 to play in the half. Earlier today, Washington advancing. Philadelphia drops out of the playoff picture. 20-6 the final at Veterans Stadium. Here 10-3 Kansas City. Flag thrown at the line of scrimmage. Underneath it's Clayton. Clayton has a first down. He is stopped at the 40, but somebody had lined up off. It might have been Derek Thomas who came across the line for KC.
Boy, this is a good look at Miami getting lots of yardage without moving a whole lot, especially on the clock. They're not taking a great deal of time off the clock.
Pat Haggerty.
Offside. Defensive end.
That was Derek Thomas, number 58, was the guy who was across the line of scrimmage.
Bill Corr, the defensive coordinator, having words on the sideline with linebacker Chris Martin.
There is Derek Thomas, that time again working against Richmond Webb. Didn't get much of anything, and Mark Clayton is being helped off the field here, coming up onto the Miami sideline. There's Clayton leaving the field, and not a lot of pep in his step.
And he is replaced by Ferrell Edmonds, normally a tight end, but they line Edmonds up in the slot here in the 4 receiver set.
And Jensen is the lone setback. But that's his customary position in this formation.
1st and 10, 1:14 and 2 timeouts remaining for Miami. And Marino has it stripped away. Then it's kicked by a Dolphin. It's loose. Neil Smith may have it. Does. Chief ball. Casey Pearson comes up with it. Yeah. Smith stripped it.
And Keith Sims, the left guard of the Dolphins, was going to be a hero, was going to pick the ball up and run with it instead of just falling on it, which is what he should have done.
So right. When in ever any doubt, you cover the football, and that time Sims tried to pick it up and run with it. Kick to the head, and Kansas City came up with it.
Now watch, moving in from the left side, there is Neil Smith, and again, that's an intentional hatchet job on the right arm of Dan Marino. Alert play by Neil Smith.
Go to the coverage once again in the secondary of the Kansas City Chiefs. However, Marino had the ball up, ready to fire, couldn't find the open receiver, pulled it down, gets the strip by Smith, and Kansas City takes over.
Yeah, and there was Sims, rather than falling on it, trying to pick it up, and he kicks it.
From the gun, it's an inside handoff to McNair. Todd McNair, his first carry, nets 8 to the 46. It's going to be 2nd and 2. Chiefs have all of their timeouts left. And the clock has stopped momentarily. Kansas City, though, has not taken a timeout. Now they wind it again. 50 seconds. 2nd and 2. Underneath, that's McNair. He has a first down at the Dolphin 47, and now they stop the clock. 41 seconds remaining. We've got an injured Chief down at the 44-yard line, and that is Rob Thomas, the wide receiver, who is hurt.
Boy, he was completely away from the play. Nowhere near the action. There's Mark Clayton heading into the Dolphin locker room a little bit in advance of halftime, and Rob Thomas, well away from the play, goes down.
Thomas today, 1 catch for 15 yards. As
our Kansas City Denver game, you might recall, Al and Dan, it was Rob Thomas who took a terrific shot and suffered a concussion in that game, and we were worried about his welfare then. We are again.
It was also the night in Denver. Denver won the game at the gun on a field goal by Treadwell, but Stephon Page had a tremendous night with 10 catches for over 200 yards.
He's had himself a pretty good first half here.
They're flexing the left knee of Rob Thomas.
Meanwhile, Marino exhibiting what has been a very frustrating first half for Miami's offense.
I think what has happened is Kansas City has taken it away from Marino and the Miami offense, and I know they're going to go to the drawing board at halftime because they're seeing a very unusual defense employing 6 defensive backs, using a lot of zone on the outside men, Clayton and Duper, and then a lot of man-for-man on the outside against Clayton and Duper, and then picking him up deep with a 3-man zone.
When play resumes, it'll be 1st and 10 at the 47. Coming up at the half, highlights of the Redskin win over Philadelphia 20-6, and we'll take a look at highlights of this one. As far as the future is concerned for the winner of this game, it's as simple as this. In the Houston-Cincinnati game tomorrow, if Cincinnati wins the game, they would go to Los Angeles. The winner of this game would go to Buffalo. But if Houston wins tomorrow, the Oilers go to Buffalo. Winner here goes to the Coliseum to face LA. Thomas getting up. Same thing in the NFC. If New Orleans beats Chicago tomorrow, then they go to San Francisco and Washington goes to New York. But if the Bears win tomorrow, they go to New York and the Redskins go to San Francisco.
Rob seems to be favoring his left knee. But again, as Dan mentioned, he was way away from the action.
Yeah, here he is right here. You're going to watch him run down, plant his foot as he makes a cut to the outside. And when he makes that cut to the outside, you're going to see where he goes down. Right here's the cut, and you can see right there is where he somehow flexes that knee, and Rob Thomas falls to the turf. So well away from the action, just making a simple cut to the outside, and it looks like the knee of Rob Thomas just gave way.
41 seconds remaining in the half. Chiefs 10, Dolphins 3. Kansas City with 2 timeouts left. 1st and 10 at the 47. Fred Jones comes in to replace Thomas. There's Jones, number 80, bottom of your screen. DeBerg for his favorite target. That's catch number 6 for Stephon Page.
And Tim McKyer was way out of the same area code with Stephon Page on that play. DeBerg seemingly wanting to tie up one-on-one with his receiver. There's Page with McKyer way off of Page. Page short of the first down, but is 2nd and short.
Hard to believe Page and Henry Ellard, the Rams' all-time leading receiver, played together in college at Fresno State. 2nd and 1. They keep it on the ground. This is McNair going nowhere. And a timeout is called by Kansas City on sort of an odd call here on a 2nd and short with 26 seconds.
That was changed at the line of scrimmage. You saw DeBerg shouting the change along the line of scrimmage to outside receivers, and he saw something defensively. He thought, well, that he could get away with that draw, and he loses yardage on it.
KC leads by 7. What does it mean when you lead at the half? Well, it means a lot in recent times. Teams with the halftime lead in the NFL postseason play have won 23 of the last 24 games.
That's a remarkable number. I mean, that is remarkable. Yeah, 23 out of 24, and that even includes the Philadelphia-Washington game that transpired earlier this afternoon, as Buddy Ryan, I imagine, will be a big story in Philadelphia. His playoff record now extended to 0-3, and much speculation concerning Norman Brayman, the owner of the Eagles, and his contract negotiations with Buddy Ryan.
Ryan has consistently said it's his choice, his decision.
We shall see.
3rd down 3 from the 41. DeBerg throws. McNair, great tackle is made there by Kerry Glenn. Does he have the first down? Clock keeps running. Remember, they only have 1 timeout left, and they are forced to use it here.
It came close to a measurement, but it is significantly short of the first down.
Now remember, earlier Schottenheimer chose not to have Lowry kick a long field goal in this direction. This is 55 yards. Now Nick he's had a sensational year and a wonderful career, but at this point in his career, this is a little out of his range.
You know, they only let him try 150-yarder this season, 52 yards, and he missed that. Let's take a look. You see the first down marker. You see the effort put on by McNair. Good tackle, and he comes up short.
And they were also forced now to use their last timeout.
You almost have to think end zone or something to the sidelines where you can get a receiver out of bounds.
Oh, a 10 or 12-yard out pattern is the pattern. Of course,
Miami's thinking that also. Well, Steve DeBerg will tell you he's got a lot of karma with Stephon Page. He's at the top of the screen.
Not a bad gamble, all things considered, even if Miami gets it so little time remains. They give it to Okoye. He picks up the first down, but that's pretty much as good as running out the half, unless they can line it up and DeBerg can down it.
Flag is down.
I think it's a motion penalty was the indication against Kansas City.
Illegal motion, offense.
No first down. Back it comes.
Well, the theory of that last call was to get a few more yards to give Lowry a better shot at it, and then throw the ball into the turf and stop the clock with the incompletion.
I think they got Okoye leaning forward at the snap of the ball. Christian Okoye started to fall out of his.
That's a major fall.
Yeah. The man who was the intended runner on the play, just a little bit of a head start.
They're going to bring the punter in, Brian Barker. His first boot was 34 yards. 9 seconds remain. Good high floating kick. Fair catch called for at the 9 by Tony Martin. 1 second left in the half.
And Dan Marino and Don Shula go, you got to be kidding me. We got to run one play?
Yeah.
From their own 10-yard line. That's
So this half is going to end in all likelihood 10-3 Kansas City. Chiefs in the playoffs for the first time since '86, only the second time since Christmas Day '71. The last time Kansas City won a postseason game, remember the shots of Stram being carried off the field in New Orleans, Super Bowl IV. Hank and the boys won it over Minnesota. That's the last time the Chiefs won a postseason game.
I was working that game. You guys
Long time ago.
drilling around in high school.
Yeah, right. Dan was in the cradle.
Not quite.
Dan was never in the cradle. A kneel down ends the first half. And we have halftime activities coming up as the teams leave the field at Joe Robbie Stadium. Kansas City 10, Miami 3, and we'll come back after this message from the National Football League and a word from our ABC station.
Halftime Report. Brought to you by your Toyota dealers and their quality line of cars and trucks. Toyota, I love what you do for me. Here now, Frank Gifford.
We're at halftime in Miami. The AFC wild card game between Kansas City and Miami, and Kansas City leads at the halftime 10-3. And if you were with us earlier, you know that Washington eliminated Philadelphia from the playoffs. That score 20-6. Brent Musburger and Dick Vermeil were there. Let's go to Philadelphia now and Brent Musburger.
In Philadelphia earlier today, Washington advanced, eliminating the Eagles 20-6. With Dick Vermeil and Lynn Swan, I'm Brent Musburger. Moment of controversy late in the first half. Let's go right to it. Pass play to Ernest Biner of the Redskins. On the field, this was ruled a fumble and a subsequent 84-yard touchdown by Ben Smith. However, instant replay correctly overturned it. The ground cannot cause a fumble. And I know, Dick, that you wanted to give high praise to the Washington Redskins' offensive brain trust in this game.
Well, I think the offensive coaches came up with a formation combination that caused the Eagles some real problems. A tight passing formation, 3 receivers to one side. They got big plays out of it, and it really loosened up the defense.
And the Redskin defense forced Buddy Ryan to bench Randall Cunningham for a series. Now, for more on that controversy, let's go down to Lynn Swan.
In the post-game press conference, Buddy Ryan said in X's and O's that the team didn't hit and didn't tackle. When asked about his position or the future of his position as head coach of the Eagles, he said he planned to be back at work tomorrow, just like always, going over Plan B free agents. On the way out, he stopped and talked to Randall Cunningham, who was obviously upset about being pulled from the game. I had a chance to talk to Randall, and this is what he said.
Well, you know, Richie said we're going to try him for a series, but it was like Buddy didn't come up to me and say anything, so... You know, when Jim ran in the game, I was like, what's the deal here, you know? Why am I getting pulled out? And, you know, it's just kind of a tough situation for me to think about.
Dick, your feeling about Randall coming out?
Well, that really surprised me. I would have never done it, not that I'm right. He is the leader. He's the spark. And I think when he went out, they actually lost a little mentally.
All right, so the Redskins advanced. Eagles are out. And now let's send you back to Miami. And here's Frank Gifford.
Thank you, Brent. And it's a beautiful sight, the sun going down here in Miami, and it's looking good for Kansas City at the moment here at halftime. And we'll be returning to take a look at the halftime highlights here at Joe Robbie Stadium in just a moment. So stay with us right here on ABC. We'll be back with Kansas City and Miami. Low scoring game. Only one touchdown in the first half. Not quite what we expected. But again, it's the kind of game that is electrifying in the sense you get a feeling that something might happen at almost any moment. Why don't we go back and take a look at the scoring that we did have? First of all, the one that we didn't get that set up Lowry 57-yard field goal.
10-3 could have been more because Kansas City was driving here, and you'll see Steve DeBerg throwing into the end zone, and Paul Lankford will come into the picture, number 44, and break it up at the very last moment. There he was, breaking it up, intended for Stephon Page, who had a big half to begin with in any event. And Lowry's field goal made it 3-0, and then Stoyanovich kicks this 58-yard field goal, 4 yards further than any field goal in NFL postseason history, eclipsing the mark once held by Eddie Murray. That tied it at 3, and then this was the only touchdown of the first half as Steve DeBerg found Stephon Page, who caught 6 balls in the first half in the corner of the end zone here for the touchdown to make it 10-3 at the half. And I'd have to think, Dan, that Marty Schottenheimer not only happy with the score, but just the pace of the game and the way things are going right now.
It really, I mean, Miami has not been doing a bad job on the line of scrimmage, but his Chiefs, I think, have been making the plays that have counted in this half. And I'll tell you what else has to make him happy, that Stephon Page, who went off this field looking like he wasn't going to be back with a bad shoulder, was able to come back and be very, very productive.
I'd be curious to see what Don Shula and Dan Marino come out in the second half with to kind of solve the mystery of a Kansas City defense using 6 defensive backs. Much more than just effective. It's been very effective. But we'll be back with second half action in a moment. Kansas City over Miami at halftime.
There's a car moving into the pits. Let's go down to Dan Hawk. Dan?
Bring high above, and we'll be coming back to Joe Robbie Stadium in just a moment.
The AFC Wild Card Playoff. Kansas City versus Miami. Brought to you by Buick, the new symbol for quality in America. And by Miller Lite, the only beer that has your tickets to Super Bowl 25.
We're back at Joe Robbie Stadium in Miami. Early evening as the AFC Wild Card Playoff game gets ready to start the second half. 10-3 Kansas City leading Miami. Let's get some thoughts from a man recently voted the greatest Dolphin quarterback of all time in a fans poll. Our man Bob Greasy.
Well, I know you guys have talked about it some with the field goal kickers, but it is a heck of a lot more windy down here than you think, and that's probably why you've seen some field goals and not. The other thing is the crowd is louder than I've ever heard it at Joe Robbie Stadium when the Dolphins are in the game. So if Kansas City stays on top, that's a big factor. Both teams want to try and get their running game going. They've not been able to do that yet. Back to you.
All right, Bob, 10-3 is the score. Chiefs spent most of the week in Vero Beach, the home of the Los Angeles Dodgers, the spring home of the Dodgers, to get acclimated to the heat and the humidity, and it hasn't been too bad, and especially having the benefit of playing the late afternoon game. Temperature right now in the mid-70s.
But they need to do one thing that really hasn't been much of a problem for the Dolphins throughout the year, and that's throwing the ball and completing more passes. You know, Mark Clayton dropped a pass that who knows where that drive might have taken the Dolphins, but the Miami passing game right now is what they really need to improve upon here in the second half. They have got to get there on the strength of Dan Marino's arm.
And what Kansas City's been doing with their 6 defensive backs here, they're taking away the outside, and the pass to Clayton dropped wide open over the middle. They've had receivers open over the middle, and on several occasions Marino felt more pressure than he is used to. But he has had time to deliver the football. He just has not been able to find an uncovered receiver.
Well, here's the best indication as Jones drops back with McNair to accept the kick of the swirling wind to which Bob Greasy referred. Stoyanovich to kick it, but J.B. Brown will have to hold it at the 35-yard line. Second half begins. Good deep kick. Jones to the touchback. Kansas City at the 20, and Kansas City will have a shorter deck here in the second half because we saw Rob Thomas, the wideout, leave, and it's a knee sprain, and he is done for the day. halftime stats and that big time of possession difference for Miami, but KC leads on the scoreboard.
Yeah, and it's really a possession number that we wouldn't have been all that surprised if we'd have seen it reversed. Kansas City expected to be the team to pound away at Miami with their big backs, maintain a dominance on the line of scrimmage, and keep the ball longer. It's been exactly the opposite.
Christian Okoye begins the half as the Kansas City running back. After Barry Word started the game, Okoye bangs out to the 30-yard line, a gain of 10. Lewis Oliver makes the tackle. So Barry Word was held very much in check in the first half, and we might see a lot more. In fact, I'm sure we're going to see a lot more of Okoye in the second half.
That's exactly what Marty Schottenheimer did against the Bears last week, and he brought Okoye off the bench, and he had a tremendous second half. He ran with style and class like he did a year ago, and here you see him turn it upfield and breaks the tackle.
And look at that hit by Lewis Oliver. Oliver, number 25, puts a shot on Okoye that we haven't seen in a while.
Second and inches, just inside the 30. Christian Okoye, enough for a first down. Puts his shoulder down, takes it to the 31-yard line. First down, Chiefs.
I think the success Miami had with the Kansas City running game in the first half is a little attributable to being just up the emotional high they had. I think Kansas City is going to try to run the ball right at them. Miami had trouble all year long against teams that could run. Against Washington, against Buffalo, against the Raiders. Anytime they came up against a team that could run like the Giants, well, they just couldn't control the ball game, and they lost those ball games. And the teams averaged, those four teams I mentioned averaged 184 yards rushing.
Good indication of that, Frank, is the way they're lined up here. 3 tight ends. DeBerg throws. It's caught by one of those tight ends, Roberts. Now, their philosophy, I think, would be different anyway with the lead and the fact that they want to run the ball, and certainly that's also been helped by the fact that Thomas is out at wide receiver.
And if they're going to go to their tight ends, that's something new. I mean, these guys just don't get the ball. Roberts only had 11 catches all year. You see him there, the motion man. He's just going to break right upfield, a zone defense, and that's an easy completion. Jonathan Hayes, their starting tight end, only 9 receptions on the entire season. The Kansas City tight ends are going to be open.
Here's Okoye. He fights his way to the 50-yard line. That's a gain of 4.
What you can do, though, when you start running the ball, as it appears Kansas City has been able to do here in the early moments of the second half, is the play action pass really comes into play. And you'll get those cornerbacks, and particularly the 2 safety men, Lewis Oliver, Jarvis Williams, big hitters for the Dolphins. They'll start creeping up to the line of scrimmage. They'll come up closer. Pretty soon they're going to read one. And DeBerg will pull it out and pop one to a Stephon Pace, to a tight end, and just makes it work so much more easily.
You saw Tom Olivadotti signaling in to John Offerdahl, 2nd and 6. Here is Barry Word, and Word, who didn't do anything in the first half when he gained 12 yards on 7 carries, gets stopped here by John Offerdahl. Why does John Offerdahl keep going to the Pro Bowl?
Because he knows how to read a play. He reads the blocking of the lineman first, floats along, stays behind his people, and then makes his move, but makes his move upfield. He's not trying to make a tackle going parallel to the line of scrimmage. He's making a tackle moving upfield.
3rd and 6 out of the gun from the 49-yard line. DeBerg under pressure, incomplete. Couldn't get it to Todd McNair, running an out at the 43.
Good coverage by Langford on McNair, who is a good receiver out of the backfield. McNair had 30 or 40 receptions this season working from the backfield, but Langford was right on him. Now watch number 44 of the Dolphins come up. He knows he's covering this man on a 3rd and 6. He knows he likes to run an out route. And he is right there, and it forces the errant pass by the part of DeBerg.
Brian Barker to punt. Deep and angle, and a perfect kick. Put it right down on the stripe at about the 7-yard line. It's a 44-yard kick. As a matter of fact, they'll mark it at the 6-yard line. Brian Barker pins Miami deep as the Dolphins take over for the first time in the second half. 11-18 to go in the 3rd. Chiefs by 7.
Clayton is ready. Boing, boing, boing.
Well, he realizes the importance of what lies ahead. Playoff football. You're in the second half. You're down. Got 94 yards to go to score, to tie it. Mark Clayton would like to be a big part of it.
First down, Miami. They begin from their own 6-yard line. Smith gives them breathing room. Fights his way close to a first down. Percy Snow, the linebacker, #1 pick out of Michigan State, makes the tackle. And where do they go? Right over Dan's man, Richard Webb.
Well, Richmond Webb is dominating that side of the line of scrimmage. He's going against Bill Moss, the defensive end. Here's Webb and here's Moss. Watch this block right here by Webb. I mean, he gets a little push there from Sims to the inside, but I mean, he's taking Moss all the way out of the play. And Bill Moss is a fine defensive lineman. Richmond Webb, though, is something, I think, extraordinary.
2nd and inches. Marino flushed out. Throws, has it tipped and nearly picked off. Intended for Clayton, and that's one of the reasons that Albert Lewis winds up in the Pro Bowl a lot. Coming in, reaching in, breaking it up.
Oh, he's done Marino with his quickness. Marino, who is very confident and makes great judgments out there, thought he could zip that ball into Clayton before Lewis could recover. No way. Lewis was back and not only deflected it, he almost picked it off. Take a look again. He thought he could sneak that in there, and a good reaction on the part of Lewis. So he dives for it, almost makes the interception.
That's these guys as a unit. If this game continues this way, you'd have to say they're the MVPs.
3rd and inches from the 16-yard line. They give it to Sammy Smith, and he's going to be very close. Oh, this will be a mark right there, dead on the 16-yard line.
Chiefs think they have stopped them.
And so do the Dolphins. I think they're a little short, if that's where the spot is.
Well, I think your man Sally Amua was. Did he make it?
No.
No. Boy, credit Dan Sally Amua, the nose tackle. That guy right there made a play and a half to keep Miami from picking up the first down.
6 feet, 285 pounds. Just controls the interior part of that line of scrimmage.
Reggie Roby to punt. Oh, a bomb. I mean, a real bomb. Fielded at about the 19-yard line by Harry. He gets upended at the 31-yard line.
He caught that favoring wind, and that thing took a ride.
64 yards.
What a time to do it. Hammers one, hangs it up, catches the wind, and gets the Dolphins out of trouble.
We've seen a 58-yard field goal and a 64-yard punt.
Made it there in about 3.5 seconds. And if Emil Harry doesn't do a remarkable job of fielding it over his shoulder at the 20-yard line, that thing might have made it to the end zone. I mean, who knows if he gets a good bounce.
Here's Christian Okoye taking the fake to Berg with that great play fake. Hits Emil Harry. And Harry is out of bounds. He keeps going, but he was out of bounds at the 44-yard line. Tim McKyer with the coverage.
Oh, McKyer got caught looking into the backfield. That so often will happen with a defensive back, and he was given a little move to the inside, and Harry spun McKyer around like a top. He was wide open. Well, we'll go back to what we said at the beginning of the second half, Dan. You can run the ball, you can play action, and fake it and get the man open.
Well, look at this offensive line. Look how big they are, and they all stand tall. And if you're a Miami defensive player, you can't see the ball. You can't see the ball is still in Steve DeBerg's hands. It looks like a running play, and when you can't see, you have no choice but to react.
There's the fake, but he gets sacked anyway. David Griggs comes in to sack him at the 50-yard line.
DeBerg wanted to go to the slant to Harry. Harry was covered well by J.B. Brown. He pulled it down. He gets the sack. Good coverage by the Dolphins.
That's a smart play by Steve DeBerg, because he's going to throw that slant, and his receiver doesn't run the pattern. That's the problem. The receiver doesn't run a slant. He's running straight downfield.
And that's why he was so angry at the end of the play, not because of the sack. 2nd down and 17 from the 50-yard line. DeBerg, and that's an errant throw intended for Christian Okoye. And when you go to Okoye, you're going to your ultimate safety valve.
Well, I'll tell you what they think of Okoye. They put David Griggs, 6'3", 250-pounder, out there covering him, and he did a good job. Okoye, for the year, only 3 receptions coming into tonight. Barry Weird had 4. Well, they don't attract a lot of attention from your defense.
3rd and 17 from the 50, 8:55 remaining. 3rd quarter, 10-3 Kansas City.
And you rarely ever hear this much noise at Joe Robbie.
Screen is set up. Todd McNair. And McNair gets it to the 36, but he is short of the 1st down. Kerry Glenn makes the tackle.
Well, those decisions now, again, with the wind swirling. What do we do now?
Well, it's pretty clear that they're not going to kick this way. Schottenheimer's already tipped his hand on that in the 1st half. The other way is the way you'll kick it.
Well, he brings in the short yardage offense, and they're going to go on 4th down.
Out comes Okoye.
3 tight end set. 4th and 2 at the 36.
They were in a similar situation. They threw the ball. They didn't even fool around about it before. They went to the shotgun. Let's see what they do now.
You know, with a 10-3 lead, I think I'd have to punt the ball here.
They may, well, I thought they would try to draw him offside, but they're going to give it to Okoye, and he is able to angle his way to the 31 for a 1st down.
I think that's a good point, Dan.
Yeah.
But when you have success like that, I'll tell you how, not only does it give your offense a tremendous lift, it is terribly debilitating to the Miami Dolphin defense. They had a chance on, that was a 4th and longer than 2 a little bit, and they just bulldozed the left side of that line and got the 1st.
Well, that was a real, I mean, that was a big gamble by Schottenheimer.
A big gamble.
I mean, it paid off big.
It did pay off big, but to turn over the ball and surrender that yardage, holding a lead.
1st down, Kansas City at the 31. 7:20 to go in the period. Slant caught by Alfredo Roberts, one of the tight ends, and that's enough for a 1st down. They'll put it at the 20-yard line. 11-yard pickup.
If the Chiefs go on here, guys, and score on this drive, if they're able to stuff it into the end zone and take a 17-3 lead, boy, you've got to go back to that 4th and 2 by Marty Schottenheimer and say, talk about a guy who's not afraid to roll the dice and come up big.
1st down from the 20-yard line. Fake to Okoye. Pass is caught by Page, and a touchdown saving tackle is made by Jarvis Williams. And what a great fake. The whole half of the Miami defense went with Okoye.
Well, it's a combination here of play action and crossing patterns. It is thoroughly confusing the 2 safeties of the Miami defense. The play action up front, again, the ball handling by DeBerg, but Page coming all the way across. He starts all the way out to the right, comes all the way across the formation, while the play action fake is taking place, and the Miami secondary is not able to deal with that route.
It didn't hurt that Jarvis Williams was one-on-one either.
No. Here's Okoye on 1st and goal, picking up 1 to the 3. Carl Wilson makes the stop. 5:48 remaining, 3rd quarter.
Steve DeBerg rapidly becoming a little bit of a legend here. His 36th year, his 14th season. He told us he got a little embarrassed about it. He said, I picked up a thing during the offseason. So we kind of quizzed him about what it was that kept him from getting all the interceptions, having such a great year, and he got kind of embarrassed about it, wouldn't tell us about it. We talked to Marty Schottenheimer. He started to tell us about it. He wouldn't tell us about it. So we don't know what that thing is, but it's working.
Only the shadow knows. 2nd and goal. Another play fake, and this time, however, Miami didn't bite. Hugh Green comes in, and also there's a flag down at the 16.
Oh, he threw it away.
Oh,
Intentional grounding. Intentional grounding.
And DeBerg right in Whitaker's face, screaming at his tight end, upset about having to take that penalty. I mean, you can't blame DeBerg for throwing the ball away. You'll see a lot of quarterbacks get away with it. See, there's Hugh Green right in his face, and it's obvious that he dumps the ball to avoid the sack. That's a good call by the official. Pat Haggerty right there to make the call. But DeBerg unhappy over one of his teammates apparently not doing the job he wanted. Whitaker.
Offensive plays coming in from Joe Pendry, the young offensive coordinator for Marty Schottenheimer. And this game has been called brilliantly.
It is 3rd down and goal at the 13-yard line. 3rd and goal, 5:18 to go, 3rd quarter. Kansas City leads 10-3. 3 tight end set. Okoye to about the 8-yard line. Offerdahl goes out to make the play, and Lowry and the field goal unit come on. Oliver also helped out on the tackle.
You know, the problem with having Okoye in the backfield in a passing situation is you're almost assured of him getting the ball on a run. And here's John Offerdahl playing the run all the way, coming all the way around the formation to make the hit on Okoye. But here's a guy who's not a threat to receive the ball. When he's in that backfield, I think it allows the defense to take some liberties and maybe overplay the run.
Particularly on 3rd and long, Dan, because you can't go with your best weapon. The play action is, they're not even thinking play action.
Alfred Oglesby is shaken up, and Miami can ill afford to lose any nose tackle today, with Sean Lee having spent a night and a half in traction, and now Oglesby coming out.
He missed last week with a groin injury. So the Dolphins are getting very thin. The defensive line.
There is Lee, who's been limited with a sore back. Lowry, meanwhile, a 25-yard attempt upcoming that Steve Pallure, the backup quarterback, to hold.
You see all those plays on his wrist? Pallure, the backup quarterback.
Just in case.
There's the chief offense out there for all to see.
Right there. Frank Winters will snap it. 25-yard field goal. No problem. Lowry kicked at least one in every game this season. Has 2 today. 4:46 to go in the 3rd. It's now Kansas City by 10 on a sparkling early evening in South Florida. Steve DeBerg guiding the Chiefs to within field goal range. Tim Robbie, the son of the late Joe Robbie, who died early this year, took over as the president of the Dolphins, has a great relationship, great working relationship with Don Shula. But right now, his team, despite its 12-4 mark during the regular season, finds itself in peril of its year ending right here at home. 13-3 Kansas City is the Chiefs kickoff. 4:46 to go in the 3rd quarter. Nick Lowry sends it to the 9. That's James Pruitt, and a great tackle is made to keep Pruitt inside the 15-yard line. And there's the guy, Charles Washington. We mentioned it before. They activated him yesterday, put him back on the roster simply because of the breakdowns on return coverage in the last 2 weeks. He's blocked a punt today and made that tackle there.
Yeah, he just knifed right through the Dolphins in their attempt to set up some sort of a wedge, and then Pruitt, with a kind of a tentative move, got up to around the 10, then started to go laterally and was a relatively easy target.
1st and 10 from the 12. Marino throws. It's caught by Duper. Juggles the ball. Loses the ball at the 30. Kansas City has the football.
What a backbreaker for Miami. A perfect throw from Dan Marino. An excellent catch by Mark Duper, and then what really hurts for a guy is he ends up losing the football because he's trying to do a little something extra. Mark Duper is doing nothing more here than trying to win the ball game. Breaks a tackle, gets between two guys, is going to spin around here and loses the ball. Albert Lewis comes up and, as he always is right around the football. Daron Terry is there. Boy, what a bad break for the Dolphins.
Dino Hackett was there to recover it. Ross went limping off. He was involved in the initial hit, and now Kansas City has quieted this crowd as they take over at the 29-yard line. 4:29 to play in the third quarter.
Tough break for Marino. It works the sidelines. Come on, let's get it up, guys. Went over to Duper, gave him a little pat on the fanny. Wild competitor, Dan Marino, and he found the area that is open, and that is coming across back on the slants over the middle, and they are looking now at Kevin Ross, the cornerback, and a good one he is for the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's look again. The slant end is almost impossible to cover. You run it like Duper and throw it like Marino. And there is the hit. Daron Cherry, who came back from knee surgery, started 6 games since he came back about mid-season off the PUP list, and a perennial All-Pro before that knee injury last December, and he made an All-Pro hit right there to take it away from Miami.
Well, the Dolphin defense has to be very tough in here. If Kansas City goes into the end zone, you might write a finish to it. Okoye picks up close to 5, taking it to the 24-yard line. 2nd and 5. Brian Soche is now playing at the nose for Miami, so Oglesby was hurt. Lee has the bad back. They've had to revamp that middle.
It really was the only move left to Tom Alamadati, the defensive coordinator of the Dolphins. Soche, a longtime nose tackle who they moved out to end because of the emergence of Lee and Oglesby, now really has but no alternative to move back to the inside.
2nd and 5 at the 24-yard line. Roberts in motion. Nice and simple. Okoye to the 22-yard line. That's going to set up a 3rd and 2. Maybe closer to 3. Don Shula, 61 years old yesterday. Back in the playoffs for the first time since after the 85 regular campaign.
Kansas City trots out a couple of wide receivers. They bring out a couple of tight ends. But again, it's a situation where you could go play action. If he works from under the center, he could go play action pass.
3rd and a long 2 from the 22. Okoye has to get to the 19, doesn't. Out of bounds at the 21. David Griggs will get credit for the stop. And here comes Lowry.
Frank, you talked about it earlier. If you can get number 35, Christian Okoye, going parallel to the line of scrimmage, you have done the job defensively.
It's hard to get 260 pounds going north and south when it takes off east and west.
Once you get him moving in that direction, it's going to be difficult for him to make a left turn and get up towards that first down marker.
It's weight and mass, simple physics.
Yeah, that wasn't all that good of a push by Griggs, and I'm sorry, but the semi wasn't able to turn before it ran out of lane.
38-yard attempt for Nick Lowry. Ballard is spotted at the 28-yard line. Richter snaps it, and Lowry's kick is good. 3 field goals today for Nick Lowry. 2:55 remaining in the third quarter as the Chiefs, after the interception, cash in for 3. Up tomorrow for you here on ABC. World Swimming and Diving Championships at 1 o'clock Eastern Time from Perth, Australia. Then golf, the Infinity Tournament of Champions, follows that at 3 Eastern Time here on ABC. Here in Miami, 16-3. DeBerg and the Chiefs just getting that field goal after Duper had fumbled. Kansas City recovered. They cash in for 3 on the turnover. Lead by 13. And Lowry puts it in the air. Taken at the 10. Mark Logan. And Logan brings it back out to the 34-yard line, where Miami will try to get something going. J.C. Pearson makes the tackle.
Return is 24 yards. First and 10 Miami.
Well, after the Duper fumble last time, you have to look at it as a success by the Miami defense, just forcing Kansas City to settle for the Lowry field goal. But unfortunately for Dan Marino and the Dolphin offense, they are running out of mistakes. They're running out of dropped passes. They're running out of missed blocks. They can't afford many more.
His numbers adding up to about 5 yards per attempt from Marino. Throws underneath for Smith. And he has a first down as Sammy moves it to the 46-yard line.
Smith's 12th reception of the year. Al touched on it earlier. They did not use him much out of the backfield, even though he had a 53-yard touchdown pass last week against Indianapolis. Not bad stuff, though, to come underneath that coverage has been smothering you deep. It's open over the middle. They've been able to get there.
First down at the 47. 2 minutes to go, third quarter. Kansas City by 13. Smith again. Across midfield, fights his way to the 48-yard line, where he's surrounded by a quartet of Chiefs.
Just tough running once again, and another superb block by Richmond Webb over in the left side.
Yeah, Richmond Webb puts a horse collar on Chris Martin. Watch number 57. Hello. That's part block, part tackle. He got away with it, though, and Sammy Smith was smart enough to duck inside of it, pick up some positive yardage.
He's a grown-up, isn't he?
He's a grown-up. You're darn right he is.
Second and 4. Here's Smith again, and the former Florida State Seminole takes it to the 45-yard line, stopped by Dino Hackett. It'll be third down and 1. Bill Cowher, who's done such a great job as the defensive coordinator for Kansas City.
Cowher played for Marty Schottenheimer with the Cleveland Browns. In fact, when Marty Schottenheimer cut him, he went to Philadelphia and told him one day, I'd like to have you coach for me. Came back, and that's exactly what he's doing. He left Cleveland with Marty and is the defensive coordinator, and a good one.
Big play for the Dolphins here. 3rd and 1. They scored a touchdown last week on 3rd and 1 on a pass to Smith. This time they let him run the ball. He gets hit at the line, tries to burrow forward for the first down, but that time it was Lloyd Burris coming up on the run blitz who makes the stop and stops him short of the first down.
Big decision here for Don Shula on the left. Marty Schottenheimer waiting to see what Don's going to do. It'll be 4th and a long one.
And we've got 20 seconds to go in the period.
They're going to go for it. Roy Foster, a reserve guard, a former Pro Bowler here, is checking in. He moves out and plays a tight end position.
The play clock, you know what's happening here? They originally thought they could let the quarter run out and talk about this, but the play clock was slightly in front of the game clock, just slightly, and then all of a sudden they jumped up. They realized they were going to get a delay of the game. That's exactly what took place there. I was looking at Clayton, and at first he's saying, hey, let the clock run down. Then they looked and they said, well, wait a minute. The play clock is just slightly ahead of the game clock. We're going to be flagged if we don't call a timeout.
Marino jumped as high as you did, Al, when he saw it.
Yep. And alertly, the only player on the field that realized it was Dan Marino.
Exactly. Because Clayton's saying let it run down, and Marino's looking. He's going, wait a minute. Give me that timeout right now, fast.
And when you're trailing, when you're down 16-3, having to burn a timeout still in the third quarter, well, you don't want to label it disastrous, but it is certainly undesirable.
They thought they were going to get what would have amounted to a free timeout to discuss this at the end of the quarter, and couldn't afford to take it. So here comes your 4th and 1 from the 45-yard line. Smith. Oh, I think he might have gotten it. On that second surge, Hackett makes the stop.
I don't know if that was the second surge or the third surge.
Tough running by Sammy Smith. That was in traffic all the way.
Haggerty's going to measure. The quarter is over.
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt that he's got the first down.
Yep. Who leads it? 49, Tony Page, with a smothering block on the outside man. Smith stopped there momentarily and then carries a couple of tacklers with him. I don't think there's any question either. He certainly had the yardage for the first. Should have it by quite a margin.
Watch Sammy run for a big first down.
Big block by Tony Page.
Miami keeps the ball. To the 4th we go. Kansas City 16, Miami 3. Back in Miami after this word from our ABC station. Back in Miami, Al Michaels, Frank Gifford, and Dan Deerdorf. The Kansas City defense this year just once allowed 2 touchdowns in any one quarter and never in the 4th quarter. And that's the hill Miami has to climb because they're down by 13. At the 43-yard line, 1st and 10 Miami after converting on 4th down. Underneath, it's Sammy Smith. About a 10-yard gain, close to a first down, stopped by Chris Martin.
And Tony Page with another big block out in front of Sammy Smith. Allowed Smith to pick up the first down yardage.
Boy, Chris Martin did a pretty good job of trying to remove Sammy Smith's head here. Watch Martin there at the bottom of your screen, number 57, move up towards Smith, and watch his left arm get right up alongside the head. Now, he was trying to make a tackle and he didn't wind up that arm and strike a blow to the head, and that's why you didn't see a flag. You could almost slide a credit card down there between the nose of the football and the end of the chain. I'd say this will be about an inch for a first down.
Are you picking up the check
tonight? Absolutely.
Again, there's Page out in front, number 49. Well, we're counting on it. Not a bad time now for Don to think of a play action pass, try to get something big, get a quick score.
If I don't, we won't eat.
Not a bad idea.
I resent that.
2nd and an inch.
If you got something where you can make it look like you're going to go short yardage, go big, get you a big score, good time to do it for the Dolphins.
At the 33. Marino realigns Smith. And he's going to go up top. And it is caught inside the 15 by Mark Clayton. Kevin Ross with the coverage.
Good call by Marino. He changed it at the line of scrimmage. You saw Kevin Ross lined up inside on the wide side of the field, and that gave him an opportunity to throw that fade. It's a good read. Clayton is either going to take it on a fly or he's going to do a fade.
Well, when Kansas City walked up and showed the bump and run, when Ross walks right up in the face of Clayton, that's when Marino chased. And of course, why not? When you've got a quarterback and a receiver that have worked over the years the way these two have. And look at Mark Clayton fight to get control of that football.
1st and 10 at the 11. Here's Smith to the outside and then cuts it back, takes it to the 6-yard line, a gain of 5.
Miami not going easy. Don Shula with a 4th down attempt at midfield, kept it alive. Now watch Clayton, and is Ross a great cornerback. He's trying to knock that ball out of there. He hammers it, and Clayton struggles, gets another arm on it, and keeps it from being called incomplete. Great coordination between the two, Marino and Clayton.
2nd and a little more than 4 from the 6-yard line. There's Clayton going in motion. Smith takes the toss. Inside the 5. Bulls down to the 1, and that's a first down.
Well, it appears that one man is trying to lift the Miami Dolphins, and that man is Sammy Smith. Not known as a receiver. He's coming out of the backfield catching the ball. And the first man who's tried to tackle him here in the second half has not gotten it done. There's Sally Amua who misses. Moss misses. 3 or 4 people slide off before Derek Thomas finally brings him down. And Sammy Smith trying to inspire this team.
They are going to measure. They didn't give him quite as good a spot as they initially indicated, or we thought from here, but it is still a first down.
And Smith was holding his ribs or his midsection as he came off the field. I think this is more than him just being out of gas or wanting a breath of fresh air. He acts like he's hurt somewhere in the rib area.
Mark Logan comes in to replace him. And Logan lines up with Page in the backfield. They bring in an extra tight end in Beatty and have Foster aligned as an eligible receiver in a tight end spot. Beatty in motion. Marino, the throw hits Page, touchdown.
We talked about Page being the checkoff man at the top of the game. Marino looked in the end zone, looked first for the tight end, looked outside for Logan. Finally, number 49, who always seems to be standing in the clear for Dan Marino. Watch Marino looking around. He spots Page finally after he sees nothing in the end zone, and Page takes it in.
Lewis Cooper, the linebacker to that side, was really caught in no man's land. He's either got to rush Marino or he's got to stay with Page. He chose to rush Marino. Dan read it and just dropped it right in for an easy 6.
Pete Stoyanovich for the point after. And so the Dolphins gamble at the end of the third and beginning of the fourth. Go for it on fourth down. Smith keeps the drive going. Marino and Page get him home. The Chief lead is 6, 12-18 left.
Right here, but here's Lewis Cooper. Now let's roll this thing, and I want you to watch both of these guys, because Cooper's going to face one heck of a decision, because right here he's locked up. Does he continue up towards Marino, or does he fall back in coverage? He comes toward Dan, he reads it, it's an easy touchdown to Page. A beautiful call by the Dolphins. They overloaded that side. Lewis Cooper was wrong either way.
12-18 remaining. 16-10 Kansas City. Pete Stoyanovich kicking off. Fred Jones from the 5 to the 25-yard line. Paul Langford makes the tackle. So Miami moving down the field to score their first touchdown of the game, converting on a fourth down to keep it going. 10 plays, 66 yards.
Tony Page gets the touchdown, but we'll call that the Sammy Smith drive. I've heard noise like this before at the Orange Bowl, but I don't think I ever have at Joe Robbie Stadium.
Yeah, that's what Bob Greasy said. First down from the 25. Barry Word is in the game as the running back. The fake to Word. DeBurr comes back to the near side. Emil Harry with a great spin move and turns what would have been about a 15-yard gain into a lot more as he spun around Tim McKyer.
McKyer having a tough day. He's been beaten several times. He's been beaten a couple times when they didn't get the ball to him. That time he just flat missed the tackle, and Harry takes it deep into Miami territory. And I'll tell you, it's going to be rough on McKyer after the week he's had when he angered some of his own teammates with a lot of comments deriding the ability of the secondary of the Kansas City Chiefs. And watch this missed tackle. Good move by Harry, and he really flat missed it totally.
15-yard gain became a 33-yard pickup from the 43-yard line. Again, the fake. Here's McKyer on a corner blitz, and he forces DeBurg to get rid of it in a hurry.
McKyer with a quick move because wide open was Stephon Page downfield in single coverage, and no one was with Page. He had run away from his defender, and he could have taken that. He might have taken that in, but DeBurg had to get rid of it.
Big talk, if it's not followed up by big action, there's nothing but hot air. And Tim McKyer, up to this point in time, has had more talk than action.
Second down and 10 from the 42. Word Picks up just a yard or two. Offerdahl and Cross make the stop. And Sammy Smith still being attended to on the Dolphin bench. Joe Pendry, the Chiefs offensive coordinator.
You got a third long you've been saving. There's no sense saving it any longer.
3rd and 9 at the 41. Crowd on its feet. Oh! Almost intercepted. And E.J. Jr. will see that in his dreams all month.
Berg hit him right in the hands. The blitz was on. He checked off. Langford was coming on the blitz. DeBerg read it. Tried to get it out to McNair, and E.J. Jr. had dropped one that was right in his hands for 6. Take a look at it again. See Langford, 44. DeBerg sees it. I'm going to dump it off to McNair. That's what I ordinarily do. Jr., well, he'll never forget it.
Fourth down. Brian Barker to punt. Flag down. Fair catch at the 14-yard line made by Jarvis Williams. Flag down at the line of scrimmage.
It's going to be a tough call if it's against Kansas City. What will Miami do?
Illegal procedure. Offense, number 42.
They got it at the 14. It could be worse, but it could be a lot better. So what do you do?
Illegal procedure. Offense, decline. First down.
Well, Don Shula decides that perhaps it could be a lot worse. And they decline the penalty, and they'll start from their own 14-yard line.
10:39 left in regulation. Spirit of Akron high above Joe Robbie Stadium. 10:39 remaining in regulation. Miami trailing by a score of 16-10. E.J. Jr. on the right. Ooh, so close to the interception and a possible touchdown. Now Miami, after the punt, takes over at the 15. Sammy Smith is back in the game. Came out with sore ribs. They fake it to Smith. Marino going over the middle of Farrell Edmonds, the tight end. Edmonds to the Kansas City 48-yard line.
Good call. That's where it's been.
Well, what happens is you get the big man Edmonds locked up one-on-one. Yep, and that's really a mismatch. Rob McGovern, number 50, has got one-on-one coverage on Edmonds. First of all, Farrell Edmonds has remarkable speed for a big man, and a lot of similarities there to Mark Bavaro once he has the ball. Look out.
1st and 10 at the 49-yard line. Here is Sammy Smith for a gain of close to 5. It'll be 2nd and 5. Cherry and Snow make the tackle.
And Sammy Smith, I think it's obvious that he's in pain. It was a labor for him to get up, and he's slowly making it back to the Dolphin. In fact, he's not going to make it. He's going to check out.
That means Mark Logan comes in. The Dolphins really have only 2 guys who can carry the load. They've got Page as a blocking back and Garrett Limbrick, who's barely played. So it's Smith and Logan, and that's it. 2nd and 5. Page makes the catch, pays the price. Albert Lewis makes the stop. It's going to be 3rd and 1.
Lewis paid the price because Page just hammered him. He saw him just as he turned around, was turning it upfield, and he barreled into Albert Lewis. Page goes about 235. Runs like he's a ton.
Well, it's such good work by Lewis because he's really locked up in coverage outside with a wide receiver. He reads the short pass and falls in, and he's confronted with Page. He really doesn't have any choice. Albert got the job done, but he was a recipient more than he was a giver.
3rd and 1. 3 tight end set. Foster is an eligible receiver. It is Logan for a 1st down behind Tony Page.
Logan, the unprotected free agent a year ago from Cincinnati, actually into tonight he was averaging better than Sammy Smith. A 4-yard average in the times that he had carried the ball. Weren't that many. He gained 317, but watch the block by number 49. Working against Chris Martin, and Logan has an easy shot at the first, taken out of bounds by Kevin Ross.
First down, Miami at the 35. That much time left. Kansas City leading 16-10. Smith back in the game, and Marino hits Duper, who gets dragged down by Hackett after a 9-yard gain to a chorus of Duper.
And what a beautiful drive in terms of its play selection. Dan Marino getting the ball all around the field. A run to Smith, a run by Page, a pass to Page. Now to Duper. A long completion down the middle to Farrell Edmonds. I mean, everybody on the offensive side of the ball for Miami has had a part in this drive.
Well conceived play. Duper on a slant in, which they run so frequently. Took the slant in about 4 or 5 steps and broke it to the outside. He was wide open.
Logan back in the game as the tailback. 2nd and 1. Clayton in motion. Logan falls down. 4-yard loss. Back to the 30-yard line. 3rd and 4.
4 wides in now for Miami. And that also brings in number 11, Jim Jensen, who can either stay in and block or work well out of the backfield as a receiver.
Well, it's 3rd down and 4. They're going to leave Logan in, and that's Page who stays with him in the backfield. A different look for Miami. So different, in fact. I think you're right, Frank. I think Kansas City's defense thought they were going to come up with exactly what you said. The next thing, they come up with Logan and Page and say, what in the world is this? Timeout.
Well, actually, they trotted him out there and then brought him out. It's something that Kansas City wanted to talk over, so they call it defensive timeout and move over to have a visit with Cower, the defensive coordinator.
6:37 left.
Today, a guy loses.
2 problems for Kansas City. Edmonds came up and lined up as a tight end. The other problem, 10 people. They only had 10 people over here defensively. Wisely, they called the timeout. They were in no position to play either the formation Miami threw at them, plus they weren't willing to go 1 short.
3rd down, 4. Make it 5. A short 5 as Sammy Smith is the tailback. They fake it to him. Marino on a roll. Marino has the first down. Marino hits Clayton, and Clayton almost lost the first down, but knows exactly where he is on the field. Kevin Ross makes the tackle.
I think he probably had the first down. The whistle had blown. The progress had stopped, but Clayton was going to make certain he did have it. Marino again with the rollout, putting the pressure on the cornerback. And that time he gets the ball to Clayton, and up for the tackle is Kevin Ross. And Clayton's struggling. He knows exactly where he's got to place that football in case he didn't have it, and he gets the first.
1st and 10 at the 24-yard line. Smith takes it to the 17, and you know, as the Dolphins draw down toward the end zone, maybe Marino looks for Mark Clayton. You could win $1 million in a bet if you were to say, what quarterback to receiver combination in the history of this league has combined for the most touchdown passes? It's not Unitas to Berry. It's not Montana to Rice. It's not Craig to Largent. It's Dan Marino to that guy, Mark Clayton. 65 touchdown receptions by Clayton from Marino. 2nd down and 3 from the 17-yard line as Logan takes it to the 15 to set up 3rd and 1. Snow in on the stop. Page had limped off prior to the play.
And up to that play where Page come out, I mean, he has just been killing people on this drive. Every time he's called upon to either carry the ball or lead block for Sammy Smith, he has just been a terror. Right now, Garrett Limbrick was in the game as a fullback. Tony Page still on the sideline.
Two-down situation for Miami. No matter, they're going to go. They have a 3rd and short.
Smith shaken up and Page shaken up, so Limbrick and Logan are in the backfield. Beatty is in motion, and on 3rd and 1, Logan fighting and fighting and fighting for a first down.
Well, this Miami drive is doing 2 things. It is quite obviously advancing the Dolphins down the field, but they are just eating up the clock. We're going to move inside 4 minutes. And they are, this is just an awesome drive by the Miami Dolphins. This is some of the most physical football they have played all year.
Oh, that's a good turn up on the part of Mark Logan. He goes about 220, so he's not a little man in there replacing Sammy Smith.
This drive already just moves over the 7-minute mark in time of possession.
And this is the 11th play, 1st and 10 as Marino throws. Clayton has it, touchdown!
66. Almost an INT the other way as Albert Lewis gambled and lost. Mano a mano, Clayton and Albert Lewis, 2 of the best to play this game. There it is, top of your screen. Lewis, 29, goes for it, misses, and Clayton with great concentration takes it in for the touchdown.
Not a bad toss either, huh?
Not bad. Outside, low.
Albert Lewis. When you have that much confidence, you feel like you can do anything at any time, but you can't.
Stoyanovich. Miami leads it.
That's the good news. The touchdown, the bad news, a lot of time on the clock.
Nice spot by Secules that time.
Look once again, Clayton. I can't tell you how much concentration Clayton has got to have on this football. Remember the one he dropped earlier in the game over the middle when he was perhaps looking for somewhere to go? His eyes were riveted on this ball as it came into his hands.
Now, if you were to break down time, if you were able to dissect a second in terms of what it meant in videotape, how much time do you think was the difference between Albert Lewis touching that football and not touching that football? We're dealing in fractions of a second.
Milliseconds. Meanwhile, let's go back to the extra point here, and this is a huge extra point, obviously, with the game tied at 16. Watch Secules, the holder.
Nice handle. That's why they have the sure-handed ones out there handling the football. Lots of time left for Steve DeBerg to pull off some of his magic.
Well, it figures with Clayton, and it's an incredible thing to think about in the history of the National Football League that the #1 combination would have been Marino to Clayton, because even if you had thought it was Marino, you probably would have said Marino to Duper.
You know, he only had 7 receptions as a rookie going back to 1983. Well, came up as, what was he, an 8th-round draft pick? They used him strictly as a punt return man.
Out of Louisville. Only once in Clayton's career has he caught a touchdown pass from anybody other than Marino. It was by Jaworski, Ron Jaworski. Kickoff taken by Fred Jones at the 1. Out to the 21-yard line. Kerry Glenn makes the tackle. And it's the first time this season, we talked at the top of the quarter, that Kansas City had not given up 2 touchdowns in the 4th quarter in any one game. And, you know, it's the northern team. It's almost a cliche, but it's the northern team coming south late in the year.
It is this man right here, who earlier they were down. He walked up and down that bench, encouraging all of his teammates. He is a leader, a fighter, tenacious. And not so much the Kansas City defense was weakened. It's just been a real gut check on the part of the Miami offense.
First down, Kansas City from the 22, 3:18 to go. Chiefs have 2 timeouts left, plus the 2-minute warning. DeBerg throws, caught up at the 43-yard line. Stephon Page.
He is something, isn't he? He's a book looking for Dick Schaap.
Stephon Page wearing a little souvenir.
Little Miami sod. Steve DeBerg not going with play action here, just a straight drop back, and boy, that's a fabulous throw. J.B. Brown just a half step slow.
Well, will the Cinderella season for DeBerg keep on going? His team is down by a point from the 41-yard line. It's a 6-yard gain. The catch is made by Jonathan Hayes, the tight end.
We saw Marty Schottenheimer a moment ago saying, take it easy, slow down, plenty of time. And, of course, again, we've mentioned it several times today, Nick Lowry on the bench, one of the best field goal kickers in the history of the game.
And he's got the wind at his back. They're going the right direction if you need a field goal.
Christian Okoye on 2nd and 5 gets into the secondary, and Christian Okoye takes it to the 28-yard line. So they're clearly within field goal range now. The clock will tick down to the 2-minute warning. It'll be 1st and 10 for Kansas City. They have 2 timeouts remaining, and Miami has a 1-point lead.
And we have just seen 3 consecutive disastrous plays by the Miami defense.
Now look at the big semi. Turns the corner, makes a shifty move like a little scat back right here, breaks away, and gets Kansas City to within field goal range.
Last year in the regular season, Nick Lowry beat Miami with a field goal from 41 yards with a minute and a half to play in the game. The stakes are slightly larger today, but the situation may be the same. Miami leads by a point, 2 minutes to go. Kansas City 1st and 10 at the Dolphin 28. And Okoye bursts through the middle, takes it to the 15. There's a marker down.
A marker where you usually get the holding call. Oh, that'll move Kansas City probably out of field goal range.
The flag of the year to this point for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Holding. 79. Offense. Still first down.
Rookie David Zott.
Dave Zott is the left guard. Here he is right here. Let's go ahead and follow him on this play. He turns to block back to the inside on Brian Sauché and pulls him down to the ground.
Not only takes him out of field goal range, but changes the whole strategy of what's going on here, because if Kansas City picked up the first, they'd let the clock run down and make Miami take the timeouts defensively. Now he's got to get him back in field goal range, and is lucky that Offerdahl doesn't intercept it.
Well, perhaps the taped hands. Look at the protection he has on both hands, but it hit him right in the hands. And DeBerg will never throw a worse pass than that. He threw it right into the crowd. Offendahl was back there, but also everyone was surrounding the receiver. It was an attempt to get the ball to J.J. Burton, but there are Dolphins everywhere.
2 times this quarter, Miami linebackers have dropped sure interceptions. E.J. Jr. first, and now John Offerdahl second. Kansas City still alive.
2nd and 20 from the 38. A minute 48 to go. Okoye. Hugh Green knocks him down after a gain of 3 with help from Turner. His longest field goal this year is 48 yards. Right now you're looking at about a 53-yard attempt.
He missed his only 50-yard attempt of 52 yards, and his career best is 58. He did that a couple of times. Out of 57. So with that win, I think they're probably within range, but it's not something you'd like to move it in closer for him. And that's what they're talking about right now.
Yeah, well, they're also having the play clock run all the way down. DeBerg is still on the sideline. They've got a 3rd down and 17.
Now they'll take it. There it is.
They have to take it here.
Yeah. But that's a smart play.
It's going to be third and call it 17, just inside the 35-yard line.
Well, I'll tell you one thing you can draw, one conclusion you can draw. By letting the clock run down, Marty Schottenheimer is saying that the clock is not our friend. And what he's saying there is, I don't plan on getting a first down. So I think you could draw a conclusion there that he's going to run a play willing to settle for less yardage than it takes to pick up a first down. So you can't rule out the possibility of a run here, maybe a very short pass by DeBerg.
That's what he was talking to DeBerg about. I know he was probably saying, well, look, give us 10 or give us 12, and Lowry's got a great shot at it. We don't need to get the first down, and then Miami's not going to give us that.
Remember, Lowry has kicked, well, counting this game today, 24 in a row, even though regular season records are not extended in postseason.
Right hit now is where Rob Thomas is truly missed. The man who works well underneath, out with a knee injury.
Third and 17 as they look for a back 10 out of the gun. DeBerg throws incomplete, intended for McNair and broken up by Jarvis Williams.
That's where the hitting pays off. Williams smashed into McNair, jolted the ball loose, and this will be a long attempt for Lowry.
They'll talk about two things arriving on Todd McNair's doorstep at the same time. One was the football and one was Jarvis Williams. A brilliant play by Williams.
And Jeff Cross arriving at DeBerg simultaneously.
Yep. Watch how well it's timed there by Jarvis Williams.
We talked about Williams and his heading ability all day long, how it hindered him to some degree in the play action fake. That time it really paid off for Miami.
Lowry in his 11th season. His most pressure-packed kick ever is just short. It died at the end, and so has Kansas City's season, as Miami is going to rally in the fourth quarter. And it's, well, for the Chiefs, the longest trip back tonight is going to be for the rookie lineman David Zott.
It was his holding penalty that moved them way back, and boy, I really sympathize with you, David. It's really a tough deal.
Terrible disappointment, but for a team that turned so much around from a year ago, and that's exactly what Marty Schottenheimer is telling Steve DeBerg right now.
We have seen
the suddenness with which your season comes to an end when you play in the playoffs. You already have made plans for travel, you live here, there, all of a sudden, bang, it is over.
We have seen courage, we have seen guts and glory on both sides of this field here today. It's been a while since I've been around a football team, or a football game rather, that has been as valiantly played and fought as this one today.
I can echo that exactly.
And Dan Marino, 15 times in his career, has led the Dolphins back from a fourth quarter deficit. He does it again today. He completes his last 10. He gets him into the end zone on the touchdown pass to Clayton, and Miami wins the trip to either Buffalo or LA.
Don Shula wraps his arm around Marty Schottenheimer, a man he drafted back in 1965 as a Baltimore Colt head coach.
I think a good look there at the old bull and the young bull. Marty Schottenheimer is here to stay.
Don will run off the field. Marty will run off the field, or maybe Don might even walk off.
I hear you.
So close.
Nick Lowry's attempt
to win the game. The direction was true. The distance was just a teeny bit short. His attempt from 52 yards. And the season is over for Kansas City. Oh, God, how that hurts.
So Don Shula, in his 30th playoff game, advances to a 31st. Happy 61st to Don Shula.
61 years young, too. He still has got the fire where it counts.
(17-16), Miami wins it. Kenny Wolf, Craig Janoff heading up our crew. Kelly Hayes, George Hill, Steve Hurt, and our ABC crew will reconvene at the Super Bowl in Tampa. Today in Miami, the Dolphins win it by a score of 17-16.
Television Network.
Next on NFL Live.
James Brooks. Touchdown.
2 weeks ago, Cincinnati knocked off Houston and knocked out Warren Moon. Today, they meet with even more at stake. I'll report live from Riverfront Stadium.
The playoffs bring Super Bowl predictions, and we'll give you more opinions to ponder.
Football has been my life. I've never wanted to be anything else.
The man who founded the Bengals is one of pro football's legendary figures. I'll talk to Paul Brown.
You know, things weren't going with a damn, so why not try something?
The Eagles are out, and the heat is on Coach Buddy Ryan. We'll discuss yesterday's playoff results. Plus, we'll be joined by Todd Christensen and Bob Trumpy. That's just ahead on NFL Live. Riverfront Stadium hosts a playoff game today for the first time since 1988, when the Bengals won the AFC and advanced to the Super Bowl. Of course, Cincinnati was destined to lose to the 49ers in this man's final game as head coach 2 years ago, but I digress. Bob Costas along with Will McDonough and, yes, Bill Walsh deeming it safe to venture back into the studio at least one more time. O.J. Simpson is holding the fort in Cincinnati along with Todd Christensen, and we'll check with them in a moment. First, some reaction, guys, to yesterday's two games. Will?
I think, Bob, both games were won the same way. You had two defenses, one for Miami, the other for Washington, played a level above the way they've been playing towards the end of the year. It was Washington's best defensive game of the year. And Miami had been giving up 25 points a game in their last 4 games, and they did a great job on defense against Kansas City. We're
going to hear from Don Shula and Marty Schottenheimer a bit later, but your thoughts on the closing drive of the game when Kansas City came that close?
You know, the key performances by players, but also key decisions by coaches. There were 2 pass plays at the end of that drive that netted 0. And then Lowry missed a very, very short field goal by this much, a long field goal by a short distance. And that really hurt. If they'd run for maybe 5 yards and 2 downs, Lowry would have kicked that field goal, probably about a 45-yarder, and we'd be talking about Kansas City today.
Of course, without the holding call on the Okoye run, it's a chip shot for Lowry.
No question.
Then the ball, though, would have been back in Marino's hands with a little time remaining, and as hot as he was, who knows what would have happened. Well, today's second half of the league's new expanded wildcard round will determine all of next week's divisional pairings. If Houston wins today in Cincinnati, they face Buffalo next Saturday in Buffalo, with Miami drawing the Raiders on Sunday in L.A. Should the Bengals advance, though, they go to L.A., and the Dolphins return to Buffalo. The same type of scenario exists in the NFC, where the Saints and Bears will decide next weekend's matchups later today at Soldier Field. A Bear win sets up the Redskins and 49ers Saturday at Candlestick, followed by Chicago at the Giants on Sunday. In the event, though, of a New Orleans upset today, San Francisco hosts the Saints, and Washington goes to the Meadowlands. So both of today's games will impact the other remaining playoff teams. One thing is certain at this moment, however, O.J. is in Cincinnati. So let's go there for more on the Oilers and the Bengals. Juice?
Well, Bobby, the weather here has been the same as it's been everywhere I've been in the last 4 weeks. Freezing rain in the 30s, it's raining. But James Brooks and Eddie Brown told me this field is excellent when it's wet. As a matter of fact, they're not even wearing rain shoes today. Had a chance to talk to Sam White a few minutes ago, and he says, I asked him, I said, Sam, how is it that you're the only team that's been able to handle this run and shoot in recent weeks? He said, you know what we did? He says, we didn't have our defensive end rush hard. We haven't rushed soft. We tried to keep them in front of the quarterback, not open up those passing lanes from the throw-in. So we're going to try to get all our pressure up the middle. One thing for sure, everybody I spoke to here in Cincinnati says that this week they feel like they felt during the Super Bowl week. They can't wait to get to this game. They're very confident. How is it on your side of the field, Todd?
Well, you know, one of the things I had a chance to do is earlier I talked with Sean Jones, and I broached the subject with him about their inability to win in the jungle. And he said to me, you know, yeah, we struggle here. The weather's bad. We don't do so well away from home, but we're going to win today. And there's a precedent for that. 6 of the last 9 times that Houston has played the Cincinnati Bengals, they have won. And they feel like with the success that they had in Kansas City in that damp and cold weather there, that they can win today with their run and shoot.
All right, Juice and Todd, we'll get back to you shortly. As members of the AFC Central, the Oilers and the Bengals have already played twice this season. The most recent meeting produced a decisive Cincinnati win, coupled with a serious Houston loss. When the Oilers and Bengals last met 2 weeks ago, Houston's playoff chances suffered a jolt when quarterback Warren Moon went down with a dislocated thumb. The injury left backup Cody Carlson in charge of the run and shoot going into last Sunday's must-win game against Pittsburgh.
I think Cody's doing real well. I think he's looking forward to this opportunity. He knows our offense inside and out, so that's not a question.
Everybody's got confidence in Cody. He studies the game, keeps up with it, works. So we just have to have the reactions a team like Buffalo has when they lose their quarterback.
If the coaching staff or, you know, if people weren't comfortable with me, I probably wouldn't be here right now. You know, I would have been let go during training camp or something. So I do, you know, I feel like they have confidence, and if they don't, then they better fake it real good.
If there were any doubters, Carlson silenced them by going 22 of 29 for 247 yards with 3 touchdown passes. The win put the Oilers into the playoffs to face the Bengals again. And according to Sam Weish, no one should have been concerned about Carlson's inexperience.
I think people underestimated the importance of, or the lack of importance of, experience there. This guy didn't have a lot of snaps under his belt in a game, but he had a lot of exposure around that offense over the period of a couple of years.
I'm very happy about this game, but, you know, also realize what we have in front of us and the opportunity that we have to do this every week and keep going, you know, on to the Super Bowl.
Now, last summer, Cody Carlson did his best to force a trade, having grown unhappy as the backup to one of the league's best quarterbacks. But instead, the Oilers signed him to a 1-year contract, and now there's little doubt that his stock has gone up after Sunday's dazzling performance against the Steelers. But, Bill, what will he have to do today in Cincinnati in order to fare better than Warren Moon did against the Bengals 2 weeks ago?
I'm sure he's seen the tapes, Bob. He has to get rid of the ball. The last time the Oilers played the Bengals, Moon was a little sure of himself. He held the ball too long. And the Bengals developed some line stunts that got to him and disrupted and destroyed their offense. In this case, Tim Crumwright will shift down over the center just before the snap, and then he's going to stunt all the way around to his right side and be totally unblocked. And Warren Moon doesn't even see him coming. So the Oilers have seen these tapes, but the Bengals have got an excellent plan, I'm sure, to force them to get rid of that ball.
Now, when the Bengals have the ball, the Oilers had to be concerned with stopping James Brooks, who had better than 200 yards against them last time.
James Brooks is a great clutch football player. A lot of people get stats as the year passes, but when you get to the big games, this is a great, great football player. And the Bengals have designed plays to take advantage, in this case, of the Houston nickel defense. Anthony Munoz, the great offensive tackle on the left of the screen, is going to trap Childress, a fine defensive lineman. But watch how Brooks reads all of those blocks. 3 different blocks to break out clean and go all the way. And Houston's going to have to really be on their toes throughout the game, or this guy can destroy him.
It's always been his strength, that ability to cut back, read the blocks, see the openings, and then quick change of direction that could develop into a big play.
No question about it.
Okay, well, the Cincinnati Brain Trust is headed, as always, by the remarkable Paul Brown. Bill Walsh is back to talk with his one-time mentor when NFL Live continues after this.
NFL Live is brought to you by Alamo.
Who either played for Paul Brown or served as assistants under him. The roster includes Chuck Noll, Don Shula, Weeb Eubank, and a moderately successful fellow named Bill Walsh. Now, descriptions of Paul Brown include teacher, innovator, businessman, and perhaps most accurate of all, pioneer. Here's Bill Walsh's visit with one of pro football's founding fathers.
I am a teacher, primarily, and I never studied football in college, really. I was a history, English major. And I taught like I would teach in a class. I considered it teaching. We started the classroom procedure, having playbooks.
How did people respond, other teams, with your playbooks and your different innovations? Were people questioning it or criticizing it?
Well, they made fun of us for a while. In other words, our guys would get off the bus going into the game, and they'd have their playbooks. The moment they walked in, there was a thing where they'd put their playbook, where we took them all back in a big case. And they'd laugh, but as time went on, they weren't laughing. Because we were winning more than our share.
There were those that thought your team played like robots, or that your team was too mechanical, or that you took from the players the flair of innovating and being spontaneous.
Well, I think that came from the fact that I called the signals by way of rotating guards. I didn't want to put my future of coaching on the line with a quarterback when I know that no young man is going to spend the time that I do.
You really were the first to introduce the black athlete to the NFL. What was the background of that?
Well, the first black athlete, football player, there were two men that I brought to camp, Marion Motley and Bill Willis. I didn't do this for any social reason. I was totally, that passed me by. I didn't even think about it. I did it because they were players I had, and I thought they could help our team.
How about you as a coach? Your strengths as a coach, those things that you stood for as a coach?
I guess I was pretty strong-willed. Nothing really was going to change what I really believed in. I imagine I could have been pretty obnoxious.
Cheap shot! Almighty! Awesome!
Your legacy to the game, what do you think, if you were to be remembered as having real impact on football, in what sense would you like to be thought of?
Well, first of all, I don't like to think about the fact that I'm as old as I am. You know, you can get to be older than you realize without thinking about it because you're so engrossed in what you're doing.
What has football meant to your life?
Well, football has been my life. I've never wanted to be anything else. I had no other interest. It intrigues me, interests me. I can't help it. So I'm stuck with it. I'm a coach.
He's a coach, that's right, and his love of the game at age 82 is still evident. Back in the mid-70s, when he went upstairs exclusively and stopped coaching, he passed you over. You were on the staff, and Tiger Johnson became the head coach in '76. What's your relationship with Brown like now?
It's always been very good. We've never had a negative word about each other or with each other. In fact, you know, Bob, our 49er teams, I wanted them to look like those precision Browns of the 50s. All the way from the uniform to the way they took the field. So much of what we did in San Francisco is Paul Brown.
Obviously, in retrospect, it worked out great. You win 3 world titles, and maybe you couldn't have done that under the circumstances in Cincinnati. But at the time, did you feel bitterness?
Well, I was crushed. But I wasn't mad because Bill Johnson, who he selected, is a wonderful coach. And Paul had a plan. The plan included me as the offensive coordinator. But at that point, I thought it might be best if I move on to other opportunities. But Paul really molded my career and gave me executive experience that I was later to use in management with the 49ers.
Will, it's impossible to pick out any one guy as the greatest coach of all time, but when you talk about some of the things that are standard procedure now in pro football, in terms of film study and keeping meticulous records, that sort of thing, Paul Brown's the guy.
Yeah, Bob, you know, the great Newt Rockne once said that all of football comes from Amos Alonzo Stagg. He's talking about the beginnings of college football and the innovations in that game. I think someday they'll look back at pro football and said all of pro football comes from Paul Brown because of so many innovations he made in the game.
Okay, it's time now to shift subjects here. Tuesday night at the Orange Bowl, all three of us marveled at the play of Notre Dame's Chris Zorich. He was the Irish MVP in their narrow loss to Colorado.
Does he ever make All-America plays?
Chris Zorich was brilliant in the Orange Bowl with 10 tackles and a sack. His bitter disappointment at the loss to Colorado was obvious afterwards. The next day, though, football didn't matter, as Zorich returned to his Chicago home to discover that his mother, Zora, had died during the night after watching him play. Deserted by his father before he was born, his mother had raised Zorich alone in one of Chicago's toughest neighborhoods. She was clearly the guiding force in his life.
I thank God for the experience that I've had. And even yesterday, you know, when I found her lying there, you know, I mean, I wasn't mad at anybody. I wasn't mad at God. I didn't curse God or anything like that. I was just, okay, you know, it was her time to go. And I'm going to miss her because I'm not going to have a chance to call her up all the time. But, I mean, I'll talk to her and she'll give me advice, things like that.
Yesterday, Zora Zorich was buried in Chicago. She was 59 years old. Okay, as we said earlier, the expanded playoff format began yesterday with the Redskins and Dolphins the winners. Now, Jim McMahon replaced Randall Cunningham for one series in the second half as Buddy Ryan sought to cure Philadelphia's offensive anemia against Washington. But all that move produced was second-guessing.
I just thought it would give us a change of pace. I mean, something, you know, things weren't going worth a damn, so why not try something? I mean, you know, try to win. That's the idea of this.
I was really shocked, you know, because I hadn't looked at the situation. It was like, by the time he sent Jim in and then he came back out, I was more concentrating, all right, don't lose your composure, just keep pumping the team up.
Are you as optimistic that you'll be back here next season as you were?
Sure. I mean, I am. You're not?
Right now, I think that Buddy will come back, but I don't know. It's a tough situation because of, you know, you lose 3 playoff games in a row. And we look and we say, well, what's the problem?
You have a tough decision, a tough month ahead of you.
Well, you know, we'll see what happens.
You go further along than that?
No, you know, season's over, and it's time to evaluate things, and I'll be addressing it.
Well, that doesn't even qualify as the dreaded vote of confidence.
Yeah, just the opposite, Bob. You know, until that point, I thought Buddy Ryan would definitely be back in Philadelphia. Now what I think might happen is Raymond will take a look around, see if he can find someone who he thinks is better than Buddy. If he can, bring that person in. If he can't, he still has Buddy, and he can bring him back. But there's a bigger story in New England. We have been told that Dick McPherson, the head coach of the Syracuse University, will be named head coach of the New England Patriots tomorrow afternoon. McPherson was in Boston over the weekend, Bob, met with Sam Jankovich, the new CEO for the Patriots, and supposedly they made a deal, and it will be announced tomorrow.
We'll have reaction to that possibility, which you're saying is confirmed at this point. We'll talk about it a little bit more at halftime. Right now, we've assembled an extremely qualified group of football sages who share one common trait. They're all easily available to us right now at little or no cost. Will, how do you see the playoff picture?
Well, my team lost yesterday, Bob. I'm out of it. I picked Philly. I thought they were going all the way, and I think now San Francisco will go all the way, and I think in the AFC, Buffalo's the team to beat.
I agree with a lot of what Will says. I think the final score of the Super Bowl would be 17-7, 49ers over Raiders.
Really?
Yep.
You think it's a Bay Area sort of affair?
Well,
or one-time Bay Area affair?
Certainly. I think the Raiders are just getting better and better every week. Their problem with San Francisco is they won't be able to move the ball well enough to get in the end zone.
I still have the Raiders evidently in Oakland. These developments are just now. I only saw Gone with the Wind about a week ago. OJ, what are your thoughts on the playoff picture?
Well, basically, they haven't changed. I think in the AFC, it's going to come down to the Raiders and the Buffalo Bills. I think because of the weather and at home, the Bills will probably win that. And the 49ers tend to turn it up a notch in the playoffs. So I see the Raiders and the Bills. How about you, Ty?
Well, one of the things that I was looking at earlier in the week, I had a chance to talk to Matt Millen. He said they were very afraid of Randall Cunningham and the Eagles, but now they're gone. So you'd have to like the Niners over there. Steve Berline, who I talked with 2 days ago, talked about the fact that they were hoping that Kansas City could go up to Buffalo and knock them off, but that's not going to happen now either. So you have to like the favorites there. What do you think, Trump?
Well, I'm only concerning myself with this game today, and this is the kind of weather that Cincinnati was hoping for this playoff game. Their thinking is that the receivers from Houston can't hang on to this football. I like Cincinnati's chances here in Cincinnati today.
All right, Trump, thanks very much. Guys, I'll put a buck on the Saints versus the Oilers if you'll give me 1,000 to 1. It's a study in contrast at quarterback in Cincinnati today. The celebrated Boomer Esiason versus the unheralded Cody Carlson. The Bengals and Oilers just moments away from kickoff, and we're back to wrap up this edition of NFL Live in a moment. Boomer Esiason about to be introduced before the hometown fans. We're moments from kickoff, obviously. Quick take on this one from Messrs. McDonough and Walsh.
Bob, I like Cincinnati because they're at home, and Boomer Esiason's been there before, and Cody Carlson hasn't.
I like Cody Carlson. He's an excellent quarterback, but Bengals 27, Oilers 17.
This man picks the exact score, ladies and gentlemen. No wishy-washy stuff
They'll forget
from him. Now, coming up at halftime, more on this Dick McPherson to New England story. We'll also hear from Don Shula and Marty Schottenheimer. We'll talk with the Raiders' Howie Long, and we'll hear from Todd Christensen, too. But right now, it's playoff time on NBC. The Oilers and Bengals tee it up for the 3rd time this season. Enjoy it, everybody, and we'll see you after the 2nd quarter.